Chapter 2262 Arrival of Heavenly Venerate. Chapter 2262 Arrival of Heavenly Venerate. Ling Han moved like a tiger that had rushed into a flock of sheep. With every punch, a foreign realm celestial king would be killed. Simple and violent. The celestial king tier elites were actually like helpless lambs, completely incapable of fighting back. Everyone's scalp turned numb at this. It was as if Ling Han had become a ninth heaven-level great demon, killing or sparing as he liked, with everything under his control. The celestial realm's celestial kings were all rueful. Who would have expected this moment? Ling Han had definitely been deliberately holding back, and waited until enough kings of the foreign realm had come to finally brandish his butcher's knife. Thus, this was locking the gates and beating up the dog, a complete massacre. No one could stop Ling Han. He was the master of this world. Unless a heavenly venerate interfered, or a pseudo-heavenly venerate arrived, who would be able to become his match? Die, die, die. Ling Han was like a demon from hell. In his eyes, not a single bit of mercy could be seen. The two realms were enemies, and him killing the foreign realm cultivators was equivalent to saving his own home, so it was naturally impossible for him to have any mercy. It was not just the celestial kings of the foreign realm. Monarch stars like Wu Xian, Sun Luo, and the others were also on Ling Han's kill list. If these monarch stars were allowed to mature, they all could become ninth heaven celestial kings. In fact, it was possible that they could even become heavenly venerates. No. Peng. Sun Luo had just exclaimed this one word when his head had exploded with a merciless punch from Ling Han. So what if he was a monarch star? In the face of pseudo-heavenly venerable tier power, he was just trash. Ling Han was expressionless, manifesting millions of himself, and simultaneously hunting down all the cultivators of the foreign realm. Na Yu howled sharply, her three horns glowing at the same time, and seals brilliantly shining while forming a sea of light. Then, it was no use at all. With a tap of Ling Han's finger, Pa, she turned into shattered bits. Wu Xian fled madly, but a flash of sword light swept out towards and instantly caught up with him, slicing him into millions of pieces. He was deader than dead. Don't even think of killing me. Qi Shui roared loudly. He finally understood why there was such a gap between himself and Ling Han. The latter had hold of the origin magic cube, and could kill even a celestial king with a single punch, what more him, who was only at the 11th layer of 8th Lotus. He was defiant. He could not submit. He was a descendant of heavenly venerate Qi Yin, indescribably noble and esteemed. How could he possibly die in this place? He murmured softly. A strange power was surging. He was reciting the true name of heavenly venerate Qi Yin. It was very rare that the true name of a heavenly venerate was known to others because reciting it would lead to a great karmic reaction and a strong connection. However, Qi Shui was the descendant of heavenly venerate Qi Yin, and the true name of this heavenly venerate was carved into his bloodline. Qi Shui activated his bloodline, manifesting the true name of heavenly venerate Qi Yin, which turned into a light that illuminated the whole world. Reciting the name of a heavenly venerate would lead to great karma, because a heavenly venerate was actually not recognized by the heaven and earth. After summoning a sliver of divine sense of his, he naturally would be targeted by the heaven and earth. Ling Han immediately sensed it. A power that was so strong it caused his heart to shudder was presently becoming stronger endlessly. It should be known that he presently was a pseudo-heavenly venerate. To make his heart shudder, just how strong would that power have to be? Heavenly venerate Qi Yin was about to appear. Ling Han humphed, and with a thought, Pa, Qi Shui really turned into bits of blood, and the process of summoning the heavenly venerate was immediately stopped. No. The foreign realm kings were all roaring in fury. Qi Shui was really too important. Not only was he an invincible monarch star, he was also the descendant of a heavenly venerate. What are you howling for? Ling Han asked coldly, and his manifestations moved at the same time, killing one foreign realm king after another. However, a hole had still been forcibly ripped in the skies. A figure appeared, yet it was so pale that it was close to transparent. But even so, he was still exuding an incredibly strong aura, as if a single thought from him was capable of shattering this heaven and earth. Lord Qi Yin. The members of the foreign realm that were still surviving all fell to their knees, their expressions filled with reverence. This was the heavenly venerate Qi Yin of the foreign realm. The members of the foreign realm were all overjoyed. As they saw it, a heavenly venerable tier only had to appear, and there would be nothing that could not be resolved. Unlock the seal and let them go. Heavenly venerate Qi Yin spoke. Suddenly, a terrifying aura surged out, just like an earthquake or a tsunami. Ling Han couldn't help but grin. Even if a sliver of divine sense from you truly descended, it is not certain that you would even be my match. What more when it is only a shadow now? Old geezer, just go somewhere you're actually wanted. I will eventually chop off your wretched head one day. How dare you? Insolence. Those from the foreign realm all berated Ling Han furiously. He actually dared speak in such a manner to a supreme heavenly venerate. Their flames of fury were completely ignited. In the hearts of those from the foreign realm, heavenly venerable Tier was an indestructible god. This is my world, so scram. Ling Han sent out a punch. Boom! Heavenly venerate Qi Yan's shadow was immediately destroyed. Those from the foreign realm were all gaping, rendered completely incapable of speech. Though that was only the shadow of a heavenly venerate, not even a sliver of divine sense, to just watch as Ling Han destroyed it with a single punch still struck them a very powerful blow. This was practically heaven-defying. Ling Han humphed, and his eyes swept over them, his killing intent blazing. A heavenly venerate had already been alerted. He definitely had to move as soon as possible. Otherwise, this heavenly venerate would very soon arrive. This new world would not be able to block a heavenly venerate. What more when the foreign realm did not just have a single heavenly venerate? Pong, pong, pong. Multiple streaks of blood sprayed out, and no one was a match for Ling Han at all. In merely the time for a few breaths, Ling Han had slaughtered all the beings of the foreign realm. He was bathing in the blood of these enemies, standing proudly in the air. Even if he was just a lone figure, others still felt that even if thousands of troops came from the foreign realm, they would still be unable to compel him to take a step back. Shen Chao came back to consciousness slowly. His legs were trembling as he said, "I submit, I submit, I submit." Again and again, he repeated these words. Ling Han humphed and retorted, "You took advantage of your official position to avenge a personal grudge. If it were not for the fact that my strength is superior to you, I would have long since become a lonely ghost. Whom are you trying to deceive with those words? For a vile character like you to be alive is merely a waste of resources." His killing intent was still blazing, bearing the aura of having killed the various celestial kings of the foreign realm. It was incredibly frightening. Shen Chao had actually been scared to the point of pissing himself. It could not be helped. He was facing someone who was equivalent to a pseudo-heavenly venerate. Moreover, he had been terrified so many times previously, so all his courage had long since been frightened out of him. He no longer possessed a sliver of the bearing that a monarch tier should have. "Please have mercy," a celestial realm hurriedly spoke up. "This is a member of our celestial realm. You cannot render a personal punishment on him. No matter how many of the foreign realm Ling Han killed, it would be contributing to the celestial realm, but if he killed a comrade of the celestial realm, that would be a great crime. What more when Shen Chao was still a monarch tier? In the future, his accomplishments would definitely reach the fifth heaven celestial king, at least a power that could not be overlooked." Pa, Ling Han moved, and Shen Chao's head immediately exploded, both form and spirit destroyed. He had already spared Shen Chao several times, but not only did the latter not curb himself, he even wanted to kill Ling Han now. Did he think that he was made out of clay and had no temper, or was a saint? The celestial king who had spoken up couldn't help but bear an ugly expression. He had some connections with the celestial king of the Shen clan, and had thus taken the initiative to speak up. He had not thought that Ling Han would not give him any face at all. Hadn't he just gotten extremely lucky and obtain the origin magic cube? As long as he left this place, the Celestial King would be able to crush this damn bug with a single finger. However, it was only he that held this kind of displeasure. The others, including Celestial Kings, were all incredibly elated because they had killed over 130 kings of the foreign realm in this battle, as well as a great many well-known figures of the enemy's younger generation. This was definitely a heavy blow to the foreign realm. If it was the Celestial realm, they would probably need at least 2 to 3 epochs to be able to recover from this loss. Long live! Everyone cheered. Pong! However, right at this moment, this world trembled, as if it was about to collapse. Chapter 2263, Redeeming Military Merit. Chapter 2263, Redeeming Military Merit. The world was trembling violently, seemingly close to collapsing. Ling Han's face paled, and he felt so horrible that he wanted to throw up blood. This world was presently sustaining a heavy blow, and he was fused with this world. Since the heaven and earth was being damaged, he, too, would feel it. He could see very clearly. At the foreign realm's end, an incredibly terrifying being was presently attacking the neutral zone. Blasting out an attack caused the whole world to shake violently, incapable of bearing it at all. Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin. He was already here. In such a short while, he had rushed here from who knew which corner of the foreign realm. His speed was really chilling. And it was unknown whether this was his real self or not. He was about 30 meters tall, his upper body bared, and covered with seals all over his skin. Even if Ling Han was now at the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier, he still could not clearly see the detailed appearance of these seals. There was another millions and millions of meters tall image behind him. With each punch, that image would also send out a punch, which would land on the neutral zone, causing the whole world to tremble and teeter dangerously close to collapse. When Ling Han's divine sense swept over, Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin immediately sensed it. He, too, looked over, and it was as if his eyes could traverse the endless distance and see Ling Han's true self. "Let's go!" Ling Han exclaimed quickly. With just a mere glance like that, it was like all the blood in his body was boiling, and he felt like he was about to explode into pieces. This new world would not be able to block a heavenly venerate at all. Only the great heaven and earth of the celestial realm could do so. With a curl of his great hand, everyone flew, and were tossed instantly out of the neutral zone, arriving beneath Clear Heaven Pass. Ling Han turned around. In this place, he could still see the image that the heavenly venerate Qi Yin had manifested. That was really too terrifying. He really had the great aura and might that could shatter the heaven and earth with a single punch. "Small Tower, let me ask you something," Ling Han suddenly spoke up, communicating with Small Tower. After the time for at least 100 heartbeats, Ling Han nodded and stepped out of the neutral zone. With his exit, Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin actually stopped attacking as well. It seemed like his gaze could penetrate through the millions and millions of km of space and was still fixed on Ling Han. However, in the heaven and earth of the celestial realm, there was a stronger power that was suppressing the power of Heavenly Venerable Tier. Ling Han finally lost the feeling of being close to exploding, but was still feeling very terrible. Ling Han cast a meaningful glance. This was the power of a heavenly venerate, and was also power that he wanted to attain and surpass. He would remember it. He suddenly turned around and left, heading off towards Clear Heaven Pass. The moment he entered into Clear Heaven Pass, he heard thunderous cheers. "Chicken Slayer! Han Lin!" Everyone was calling his name. People lined up on either side of the long streets, all of them extremely inspired. Ling Han knew that it had to be that the fact that he had killed celestial kings from the foreign realm through trickery in a single battle had already spread out. Though there were some foreign realm kings that had not been killed by him, he had killed at least 90% of them, and what the celestial realm needed now was a superhero to uplift their morale. Thus, they were all considered Ling Han's kills, making his halo even more dazzling. His face bearing a smile, he nodded repeatedly at the people in the area as he accepted the rewards from the heaven and earth. Killing beings of the foreign realm in clear heaven pass was considered ridding the heaven and earth of evil, and one could get rewards from the heaven and earth. However, it would not be directly bestowed, but rather calculated as military merits, which one could trade in at the sacrificial altar of Clear Heaven Pass. In this battle, Ling Han had killed hundreds of foreign realm kings, as well as countless ascending origin tiers, immortal palace tiers, dividing soul tiers, and severing mundane tiers. The military merits that he had gained were naturally extremely high. In history, was there any pseudo-heavenly venerate that had joined the battle? Heavenly Venerable tier was not recognized by the heaven and earth at all. Even if they killed and killed, it would still be impossible for them to gain military merits. Thus, the military merits Ling Han obtained would probably make a mark in history all at once. He strode forwards, heading directly towards the sacrificial altar. An ascending origin tier elite appeared and said to Ling Han, "Han Lin, the celestial kings are summoning you." Ling Han nodded and replied, "All right, wait until I do something first. It will not take too much time." That ascending origin tier frowned slightly. The celestial kings were summoning him, and this brat actually did not immediately go. But even if the man had extremely great courage, he would not dare do anything against Ling Han. The Ling Han now was the greatest hope of the celestial realm that had provided outstanding service. If he dared touch a hair on Ling Han's head, not only would he be blasted into bits, he would also be nailed onto the pillar of shame in history. Hence, he could only follow behind Ling Han, looking depressed. Among the cheers, Ling Han arrived at the sacrificial altar. The sacrificial altar was extremely simple. It was just a pentagonal stone altar, but upon closer look, Ling Han discovered that the material used to construct the stone altar was extraordinary, possessing astonishing seals of light that were supreme and noble. He walked onto the sacrificial altar, and an object that was akin to a decree immediately appeared in his mind. A series of names were written on it, filling it densely. These were the resources that the heaven and earth allowed for redeeming. Ling Han even saw the 1,000-year dream pill. This pill recipe had long since been lost, but it could actually be redeemed from the heaven and earth in this place. Everything in this world was created by the heaven and earth. Even alchemical pills and so on were still formed after obtaining various ingredients in this world, which were formed naturally by the heaven and earth. "I want level 20 godly metal," Ling Han said mentally. Instantly, a hole cracked open on the sacrificial altar. Countless metals dropped, and Ling Han's military merits was subtracted continuously by the heaven and earth. Ling Han was unconcerned. He wanted to advance the divine demon sword to celestial tools level, and he had already made this decision long before when he had decided to kill the foreign realm elites through trickery. He received the godly metal from below, stowing all of it into the Black Tower. The ascending origin tier elite watching from behind him was completely baffled. Ling Han was actually using a large amount of military merits to redeem level 20 godly metal. Was there something wrong with you? Even redeeming pseudo-divine metal was better than this. His heart was aching painfully. Though level 20 godly metal was not worth much military merit, this was still an ocean's worth. All the military merits added together made even his eyes bloodshot with envy. Wasteful. This was really too wasteful. Yet Ling Han was completely unconcerned. When he felt like it was enough, he finally stated, "That's enough." Instantly, his military merits stopped subtracting, and the bestowing of godly metal also stopped. It should be enough to upgrade the divine demon sword. Ling Han checked, and there was still about 2/3 left of his military merits. "I'll redeem some more celestial medicine," Ling Han stated, spending his military merits without any meanness. This was only a useless figure on himself. It was only truly beneficial once it could be traded for real items. As he redeemed stuff, understanding rose up in his heart. Everything in this world, to be frank, was actually regulations, including himself. He, too, was also merely regulations. The form was secondary and regulations were the primary element. Of course, Ling Han had absolutely no plans of giving up his physical body. Regulations were the display of strength, and enjoying life would need a physical body to realize. Right, I'll redeem some of this stuff as well. Ling Han's eyes lit up. He discovered a tool that was called Heaven and Earth Origin Stars, which was exceedingly expensive, but its might was also incredibly powerful and could deliver a Celestial King tier-level attack. Once he had traded in all his military merits, Ling Han was finally satisfied. "Let's go," he said to that ascending origin tier elite. That man had long since gotten impatient from waiting. With a slight humph, he led the way ahead. Actually, he looked down on Ling Han slightly and thought that Ling Han had only been able to attain such a great merit purely because he had gotten a stroke of sheer dumb luck and obtained the Origin Magic Cube. If it was anyone else, it could be done as well. Chapter 2264, Appearance of the Imperial Void Celestial King. Chapter 2264, Appearance of the Imperial Void Celestial King. That ascending origin tier elite brought Ling Han to a large palace. This great palace was really too majestic, with light of Tao enshrouding it and emanating an air of utter dominance. Ling Han was sure that this great hall had to be a precious treasure. He channeled the heaven-deceiving technique, concealing his own aura. More importantly, it was to conceal the existence of the Black Tower. There were a great many ninth heaven celestial kings here. Led by that ascending origin tier, Ling Han entered into the great palace. When they arrived here, the back of that ascending origin tier elite involuntarily bent as he revealed a cautious look, seeming like he did not even dare to breathe too heavily. This was natural. There were many celestial kings seated in the great palace, and several ninth heaven celestial kings were seated loftily on the other end of the great palace, as if they were immortal gods. Han Lin, you have accomplished great service for the celestial realm. The Eternity Celestial King spoke first, his voice resounding strongly and possessing supreme austerity. This was his true self. What had appeared at the Saintly Origin Academy was merely a sliver of divine sense from him, a manifestation, and could not be compared with his true self at all. Ling Han appeared extremely modest and bowed slightly towards the Eternity Celestial King. "Thank you for your praise, Lord Eternity. It is indeed a merit that will not be erased for ages," another Celestial King said. All those that could speak at this moment had to be ninth heaven Celestial Kings. Her title was 1,000 Words, and she was one of the rarer female Celestial Kings. The saying is true. Throughout history, heroes have emerged from the youth. A Celestial King dressed in Tao robes stroked his beard and smiled slightly. His title was Cloud Void, and he naturally was also a ninth heaven Celestial King. The Celestial Kings were not stingy with their praise. Aside from the fact that Ling Han had killed a great many elites from the foreign realm, his own natural talent of cultivation was also extremely valued by the Celestial Kings. "I propose that we nurture this boy as much as possible," the Eternity Celestial King said. He had a very high opinion of Ling Han. With the natural talent of this boy, added with the Eternity Celestial King, it is possible that he could surpass the limitations of the regulations and become a Heavenly Venerate. Heavenly Venerate. The Celestial Kings all looked solemn. This was an existence that was superior to regulations. Even in the entirety of the celestial realm, there were only 3 such overlords. "I agree," the Everlasting Youth Celestial King immediately said. He was close friends with the Eternity Celestial King. "I agree as well." The Treading Cloud Celestial King expressed her own stand as well. "I disagree." Right at this moment, a figure appeared at the doorway of the palace, casting a long shadow and emanating a boundless pressure on the Celestial Kings. Imperial Void. The Eternity Celestial King's eyes narrowed as he spat out these words. Instantly, Ling Han's heart jolted as he looked towards this person. This was a youth who looked to be no more but 16 or 17 years old, but his sideburns were already snow-white, revealing an air of age. He was clearly just one person, but standing there, he was like an immovable god that no one could possibly surpass. Powerful, extremely powerful. Ling Han had a feeling that even if he was still in the neutral zone, it would not be easy for him to kill this person. This was an instinct that could not be described, but Ling Han was absolutely certain about it. The Imperial Void Celestial King, an overlord among the Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings, an existence that could definitely be ranked into the top 10, or even the top 3. Small Tower had once said that when the Imperial Void had been in severing mundane tier, he had repeatedly crippled his own cultivation level and started again, right until he could deliver no more strikes to the heaven and earth, and only then did he advance into the dividing soul tier. This kind of being was probably endlessly close to the heavenly venerable tier. No, no, no. There was still a very large gap between him and the heavenly venerable tier, Ling Han immediately corrected mentally, but the latter was truly just a step away from pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. Even celestial kings like Eternity Celestial King would probably not last 100 moves against him. This was the personal disciple of a heavenly venerate, and was extraordinarily powerful. "What do you mean?" the everlasting youth Celestial King asked. The Imperial Void Celestial King strode in, a frightening aura surging out. All the Celestial Kings in the palace were intimidated by him, and actually fell completely silent. He stated calmly, "I think that this boy should hand over the Origin Magic Cube." When these words fell, all the Celestial Kings immediately rose in a storm of protest. It could be said that Ling Han had performed a great service for the Celestial Realm, but the first words from the Imperial Void Celestial King were actually to demand that Ling Han's strongest treasure was to be taken from him. Wouldn't this just be bitterly disappointing the rest? If they acted in such a manner, who would still be willing to work for the Celestial Realm? The Imperial Void Celestial King continued, "I have already touched the edges of the heavenly venerable tier. I have certainty that if I had the Origin Magic Cube, I could break through to the heavenly venerable tier within the next 100 million years." He paused, and then continued, "If I become a heavenly venerate, I will definitely be able to push our enemies out of our borders and guarantee that the celestial realm will be safe for millions and millions of epochs. Tell me, does the slightest bit of selfishness underlie my actions?" Ling Han was speechless for a while. The Imperial Void Celestial King clearly wanted to take the Origin Magic Cube for his own, yet still spoke of it in such a grand, noble manner, as if his cause was just and righteous. It had definitely surpassed the upper limits of shamelessness. The Celestial Kings exchanged looks, appearing very hesitant. The Imperial Void Celestial King was an absolute prodigy in his youth, leading a whole era. Just the fact that he had delivered strikes to the heaven and earth until he could not anymore in the severing mundane tier was a clear show of some traces of his freakish genius. Furthermore, when he advanced into the Ninth Heaven Celestial King tier, he had also become the highest grade of elite. There were at most only 10 that could be his equal, and he could even rank in the top 3. His superior strength truly shook the past and shone in the present. If it had to be said that there was anyone in this world that would be most qualified to become the next heavenly venerate, the Imperial Void Celestial King was definitely one of them. To be honest, after the Imperial Void Celestial King obtained the Origin Magic Cube, how high would be his chances of advancing into the heavenly venerable tier? Probably very high. This kind of existence was really just a line's breadth away from the heavenly venerable tier, and the Origin Magic Cube was the stepping stone that could push open the doors to this final stage. The importance of a heavenly venerate was really much, much too great. The reason why Clear Heaven Pass had been guarded with such difficulty was because they did not have a heavenly venerable tier standing guard here. Otherwise, there would be endless regulations they could channel, and even if the celestial realm side only had a single heavenly venerate, he could be treated like 3, 5, or even 10 celestial kings. If the Imperial Void becomes a heavenly venerate, everyone thought, it would only need 100 million years, and the situation of the celestial realm would be improved by an unknown number of times. With such thoughts, quite a number of celestial kings were moved. As they saw it, the importance of the celestial realm naturally far surpassed the benefits of 1 or 2 people. The Imperial Void Celestial King turned to Ling Han again and said, "Youth, hand over the Origin Magic Cube. I will not mistreat you, and I will take you as a disciple. In the future, it is not impossible that you, too, would be able to touch the borders of the heavenly venerable tier. Ling Han smirked coldly. He had long since had a stomach full of anger, and it finally exploded as he demanded, "Dare I ask, Lord Imperial Void, where is your master?" The master of the Imperial Void Celestial King was naturally the sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable, and Ling Han's words were very direct and meaningless, was not that the celestial realm did not have any heavenly venerates. Your master was one, but had he stepped forward and done anything for the sake of the celestial realm? Even if you became a heavenly venerate, so what? Would you really work for the benefit of the celestial realm? If there was only one heavenly venerate, without great determination, would you be able to block the heavenly venerates of the foreign realm that numbered at least in the dozens? The sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable had become a coward. So how could Ling Han trust that the Imperial Void Celestial King would be an exception? That was right. Ling Han had complete confidence in himself, and was certain that even if he did not have the Origin Magic Cube, he would still be capable of becoming a heavenly venerate, though it was possible that the process would be more complicated and troublesome. Hence, he could afford to let go of the Origin Magic Cube. The problem here was there was absolutely no way he was going to hand it over to the Imperial Void Celestial King. The Imperial Void Celestial King actually did not get angered, but instead smiled. "Youth, you are really quite brave. However, whatever I want, there has never been anyone that can refuse me." He moved directly, grabbing out at Ling Han. Chapter 2265, Snatching. Chapter 2265, Snatching. The Imperial Void Celestial King had moved. The Eternity Celestial King humphed and exclaimed, "Imperial Void, you have gone too far." He moved as well, helping Ling Han to disperse this attack. Boom! The whole great palace trembled, and a terrifying storm of power surged out madly. All those celestial kings below 8th heaven were sent flying. A 9th heaven celestial king was too strong, and both Imperial Void and Eternity were two of the strongest of them. The aftermath of a single blow would have that kind of might. Only Ling Han was still standing where he had been, for the Eternity Celestial King had blocked the attack that had blasted towards him. "Eternity, you dare stop me?" Imperial Void Celestial King demanded menacingly, his expression icy. In his awareness, there had long since been no worldly concept like right or wrong. Everything was for the sake of pursuing the true pinnacle of cultivation. And now there was a chance laid out in front of him. Whether the other would give it to him of his own volition, or he moved to snatch this chance, he was determined to obtain it. The Eternity Celestial King also looked furious as he exclaimed, "This boy has done a great service for the celestial realm, yet as his senior, you actually wish to deprive him of his treasure. Have you no shame?" "Shame?" The Imperial Void Celestial King laughed loudly. "In the face of the survival of the celestial realm, you speak of shame with me? Hee. Eternity, a cultivator should sever his emotions and connections. Your obsession is too strong. It is no wonder that your battle prowess has stagnated." The Eternity Celestial King sneered, "Imperial Void, do you dare swear a Tao oath that you will be willing to battle for the sake of the celestial realm after becoming a heavenly venerate, right until your last drop of blood?" Instantly, the Imperial Void Celestial King's smile withdrew. For elites like them, Tao oath was actually a questioning of their own hearts. Once they had sworn a Tao oath, if they could not fulfill it, they would encounter great danger when they attempted to break through to a higher cultivation level. This was a backlash that came from their own heart and was more dangerous than anything else. At first, 9th Heaven Celestial Kings were already incapable of further progress, so they naturally had no need to fear any Tao oath. But it just so happened that the Imperial Void Celestial King still wanted to become a heavenly venerate. That was a completely different story. "No words to refute me?" the Eternity Celestial King scoffed. "Though this brat is outrageously bold, his words ring true. What has your line done for the celestial realm?" Quite a number of celestial kings nodded at this. Originally, if there had been 3 heavenly venerates as their commanders, the pressure on Clear Heaven Pass would have been reduced countless times over. The Imperial Void Celestial King frowned. He naturally would not be concerned about the opinions of these celestial kings, but at present, he wanted what belonged to Ling Han. If he angered these celestial kings, there was no way he could succeed. After all, there were indeed a few celestial kings that could be his equal, and if 2 or 3 of them joined forces, they would be able to stop him. He suppressed his killing intent and said, "The heavenly venerable tier has surpassed the regulations and is not recognized by the heaven and earth. Every time one appears and makes a move, they would be taking the great risk of being killed by the heaven and earth. Thus, before reaching the very crucial point, how could a heavenly venerate possibly step out?" These words gained the agreement of a great many celestial kings. The imperial void celestial king was right. Though heavenly venerable tier was superior to regulations, they were also not recognized by the heaven and earth because of this. "Excuses," the eternity celestial king sneered. "Imperial void, these words of yours will only be able to deceive those celestial kings that have just advanced. 8 epochs ago, the connecting point between the 2 realms was already incredibly stable, and even the heavenly venerates of the foreign realm could enter. At that time, was there any heavenly venerate that had moved? Yes, but there was only one, the karmic life heavenly venerable. He battled 11 heavenly venerates of the foreign realm, and in the final moment, he used himself to fuse with heavenly Tao, barraging the connecting point of the 2 realms and causing it to shatter, and this was what guaranteed as much as 8 epochs time to recuperate for the celestial realm. When these words fell, the newly promoted celestial kings, and even the mighty figures that had only advanced to the celestial king tier in the latest 5 to 6 epochs were all stunned. This was a page of history that had been erased. Who would have imagined that the celestial realm had almost been conquered 8 epochs ago? Realization finally dawned on Ling Han. The karmic life heavenly venerable had died in that manner. With him alone facing 11 enemies, no matter how strong the karmic life heavenly venerable was, what could he do? There was absolutely no way he could be their match. Anyone who could become a heavenly venerate had to be a supreme elite. In a one-on-one battle, it was hard to say who would emerge victorious, what more when there was such a large disparity in the numbers. Hence, in the end, the karmic life heavenly venerable could only fuse himself with heavenly Tao and barrage the connecting point of the 2 realms, causing it to shatter and once again become unstable, winning the chance for the heavenly realm to rise again after the calamity. But it had already been so dangerous at that time, yet still not one of the 3 great heavenly venerates moved. This was practically a betrayal of the celestial realm. No, Small Tower was very wary of the sealed emotion heavenly venerable and the others, so they must even have been on opposing sides. Then, these 3 were even more despicable. Could it be that they had still been holding the karmic life heavenly venerate back at such a crucial moment? Ling Han really could think of no reason why the sealed emotion heavenly venerable and the others would do that, but the truth was the truth. The imperial void celestial king's expression was already dark. Fixing his eyes on the eternity celestial king, he declared menacingly, regarding the secret history of that era, "My master as well as the other 2 lords have already decreed that it is to be forever sealed in that time, and you actually dare reveal it. That is a grave breach." Ha 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 ha. The eternity celestial king laughed loudly. "Didn't you say that heavenly venerable tier is unrecognized by the heaven and earth? How could it be that a heavenly venerate would come and hunt me down for such a paltry matter? Then I would really like to ask, is it those paltry events of the past that are more important, or is the resistance against the foreign realm more important?" These words had really hit the nail on the head. The imperial void celestial king's killing intent blazed and solidified to enshroud him. "Eternity, I thought that you were a smart person since you could live so long, but now it looks like you only accomplished that because you had slightly good luck. If the celestial realm dies, everyone will be finished. I truly do not understand what your line as well as the other 2 lines mean. Just simply sitting by and watching as the celestial realm teeters precariously on the edge." The eternity celestial king mused, emanating an indescribable grief and indignation. If the 3 great heavenly venerates could join forces and battle, the situation would definitely be different. A short-sighted character naturally would never be able to understand, the Imperial Void stated calmly. Stretching out a hand, he pointed at Ling Han. Hand over this boy, and I will turn and leave. Otherwise, I will unleash a massacre today. I don't believe that. The everlasting youth Celestial King stepped out, standing on the Eternity Celestial King's side. He was also infuriated. Neither do I. Another Celestial King stepped out. It was the Thousand-Word Celestial King. Me as well. This was the Cloud Void Celestial King. As many as 7 Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings stood on the same side as the Eternity Celestial King, facing the Imperial Void Celestial King directly. Are you all tired of living? The Imperial Void Celestial King demanded coldly. Among these 8 Celestial Kings, only the Eternity Celestial King and Everlasting Youth Celestial King were worthy of his notice. Though the others were also Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings, the gap in their battle prowess was a little wide, and he was completely unafraid of them. Even the line of sealed emotion cannot do as they please, the Eternity Celestial King declared decisively. I am definitely going to protect this brat. Then you can all just go and die. The Imperial Void Celestial King moved, stretching out a hand. Instantly, countless palms appeared in the palace, blasting out simultaneously at the 8 great Celestial Kings. The Eternity Celestial King roared furiously, and a celestial light surged out of his body, turning into an incredibly stunning sword chi. The other Celestial Kings moved as well, charging to attack the Imperial Void Celestial King. The 9 great Celestial Kings battled fiercely, and very soon, they had exited the Great Palace. Flying into the skies, they broke out into an intense exchange of blows. The Imperial Void Celestial King was indeed powerful. Even if it was only him against 8 opponents, he still did not fall into a disadvantage, and the fact that he could be ranked as one of the strongest Celestial Kings was definitely not because of the sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable. Han Lin. A loud shout rang out, and Hong Huang walked over, his eyes set on Ling Han. In the academy, you actually dared to rebuff my favor, and now you dare to disobey Senior Brother Imperial Void. You are merely seeking your own death. He lashed out, moving to attack Ling Han. Chapter 2266. Need help? Chapter 2266. Need help? Hong Huang was very overbearing. At Saintly Origin Academy, he already dared to make a move on Ling Han in full public. Though he had not killed or wounded him, he had directly destroyed Ling Han's abode. There was no one that could discipline him, because he was one of the sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable's people, the disciple of a Heavenly Venerate. And now, he was similarly making a move on Ling Han with absolutely no scruples, because he knew that Ling Han's power only originated from the Origin Magic Cube. Aside from that, he was only a second secret Monarch Star. He, too, was a Monarch Star and a 9th secret at that. Just how wide was the gap between the two of them? Thus, he attacked Ling Han without any reservations. He, too, wished to touch the Origin Magic Cube, to peer into a sliver of the secrets of regulations. Ling Han did not face him head-on. In a situation when he could not use the Origin Magic Cube, there was naturally no way he could be a match for a 9th secret. The gap between them was really too wide. Void space unfolded, and he formed millions of manifestations. Boom, boom, boom. Hong Huang barraged him madly, and the Celestial Kings had no intention of interfering. Those that wanted to interfere had long since done so, stopping the Imperial Void Celestial King from attacking Ling Han, and now this was merely a 9th secret that was flaunting around arrogantly. Naturally, there was even less of a possibility of them interfering. In any case, he was at the same cultivation level as Ling Han. Ling Han dodged continuously, the expression on his face turning colder and colder. No matter what, he was still a member of the Celestial Realm and hoped that the Celestial Realm could be saved. He still had a high opinion of a Monarch Star like Hong Huang, who would be able to fight for the Celestial Realm in the future. This was why he had not made a move on Hong Huang in the neutral zone, but now that he thought about it, this was completely unrealistic. Since when had the line of sealed emotion battled for the Celestial Realm, He shook his head. Hong Huang was merely courting his own death. Do you need me to get rid of this trash for you? A voice rang out, calm and unhurried, completely slow and at ease. Ji Wuming had appeared at the doors of the great palace who knew when, his hands crossed behind his back, looking at Hong Huang disdainfully. Though the latter was only a monarch star, he was still completely worthless in his eyes. No need, Hong Huang called out loudly. Did a ninth secret still need help in a battle against a second secret? You got to be joking. Yet Ji Wuming sighed and said, Trash, I was not talking to you. Don't flatter yourself. What? Hong Huang faltered, and his whole face flushed instantly. He had not imagined that he was the trash that Ji Wuming was speaking of. This. He was a great monarch star, a ninth secret prodigy, and in Ji Wuming's eyes, he wasn't even worthy of being called human and could only be considered trash. More importantly, he had really flattered himself by snatching the chance to answer first. Now that he thought about it, his face flushed. No, he was furious. He was the disciple of a heavenly venerate, and there was absolutely no one that could insult him. Ling Han was surprised and asked, Brother Ji, have you recognized me? Ji Wuming nodded and said, Your disguise technique is indeed flawless. It should be the heaven-deceiving technique of the heavenly Saint Palace, right? However, there are not many people that I would consider a rival in this world, and the only one whose cultivation level is close to mine is you. How could I be unable to guess? Indeed, if Ling Han appeared average, then Ji Wuming would truly be unable to recognize him, but just how many monarch stars were there? Hong Huang was mad with jealousy. He knew that Ji Wuming was stronger than him, but Ji Wuming had such a high opinion of Ling Han and considered him a rival, yet did not even deign to pay Hong Huang any regard, calling him trash. How could he possibly accept that? With him roaring furiously, his attacks became even more crazed. He was determined to kill Ling Han and use facts to tell Ji Wuming that he was much stronger than Ling Han. Ling Han's figure flashed. It was true that his strength was no match for Hong Huang's, but void space was too amazing, and added with the regulations of time, his ability to protect himself was still very strong. He smiled and said, No need. If I wanted to kill this kind of trash, it would be as easy as pie. Good. Hong Huang's eyes were bloodshot. Then show it to me by killing me. Ji Wuming nodded, and actually just turned and left, not even staying to watch the battle. True, who was he? A ninth heaven celestial king in the past, invincible throughout his era, and perhaps even stronger than the imperial void celestial king. Then how could an immortal palace tier battle actually be worthy of his notice? He merely did not want Ling Han to die and make him lose a very good rival. Since Ling Han said he was confident, Ji Wuming naturally left. What was so fun about watching this? Ji Wuming was very relaxed, his figure moving lightly, and very quickly disappeared without a trace. Hong Huang began storing up power for a powerful attack. His battle prowess far surpassed Ling Han's. Thus, he naturally had enough room and leftover power to prepare a stronger attack. Otherwise, in a situation when both sides were equally matched, him doing that would merely be committing suicide. Ling Han smiled slightly. Do you truly wish to die? Hong Huang was so furious that he grinned. If you had the ability to kill me, I would be able to die without regrets. Sigh, what a waste. Ling Han sighed and took out the Heaven and Earth Origin Star. This was a good item that he had traded with military merits at the sacrificial altar of Heaven and Earth. After activation, it could burst out with a Celestial King tier attack, but the trading price was also overwhelmingly expensive. Even he had only managed to trade for a few. Hong Huang's eyes were very sharp. The instant he saw the Heaven and Earth Origin Star, his face immediately paled. That was a powerful and deadly weapon. Celestial tools would need a cultivator to activate them, and without enough strength, it could not be done at all. But the Heaven and Earth Origin Star was different. It was like a Celestial King tier decree. It could be used just by opening it, but it was a one-use item. Compared with the Celestial King tier decree, the Heaven and Earth Origin Star was more useful because as long as one locked down on his opponent with Divine Sense, He only had to throw it out, and that would be it. Hong Huang was indeed extraordinarily confident. He was a prodigy that could become a ninth heaven celestial king in the future, but this, after all, was only a matter of the future. If he was to confront a celestial king tier attack at this moment, wouldn't that just be suicide? Even if the attack blasted out from a heaven and earth origin star, merely had the destructive power of a first heaven celestial king. What to do, what to do, what to do? Hong Huang's forehead was covered with cold sweat, coldness sweeping over him like a flood. In this instant, he truly felt a nervousness that he had never experienced before. Ling Han smiled slightly and said, "At the academy, you attacked as you wished just because you have a cowardly master shielding you, and acted without any reservations, doing as you liked. Now, it was the same as well. Let me ask you, then. I have done such a great service for the celestial realm, yet you still attacked me. Do you even have the slightest bit of shame?" At present, he was a superhero of the Clear Heaven Pass, who in Clear Heaven Pass did not extremely admire the chicken slayer, Han Lin, yet Hong Huang aggressively made a move on Ling Han. This was completely a type of betrayal. Hong Huang could not answer. As he saw it, there was no need to be reasonable in anything he did, because his master was the sealed emotion heavenly venerable, and this was a reason that was stronger than anything. Yet now, he finally felt isolated and helpless. "Youth, you are really arrogant." A cold laugh rang out, and an elder appeared. His brows and beard were white, filled with a sage-like air. With a flash, he appeared in front of Hong Huang like it was natural that he was there. The old geezer had 7 multicolored lights, and it was as if a slight tremor of his body could cause the earth to crumble and the stars to fall. Seventh Heaven Celestial King. Ling Han's heart jolted. Though the heaven and earth origin star was powerful, it could only shoot out a 4th heaven or 5th heaven Celestial King tier attack at most, and definitely could do nothing against 7th heaven Celestial Kings. "I heard that you killed my many generations' grandson," the old geezer said, his eyes narrowing, emanating a shocking coldness. Chapter 2267, Demand of a Heavenly Venerate. Chapter 2267, Demand of a Heavenly Venerate. Realization dawned on Ling Han. This old geezer was Shun Chao's ancestor. With a laugh, he retorted, "Shin Chao ambushed me in the neutral zone, and it was indeed I who killed him. Old geezer, it would be best to kill this kind of shameless descendant to avoid being embarrassed in the future." The celestial king of the Shen clan couldn't help but be dumbfounded. This brat actually dared to speak so fluently in front of him, not taking him seriously at all? But very soon, he felt relieved because Ling Han dared to insult even a heavenly venerate. So what did this count as? His expression did not shift. The self-restraint of a celestial king was naturally good. "Do you think that just trading in a heaven and earth origin star would be enough to stop me?" "Of course not," Ling Han stated, smiling, but then continued righteously, "But I think that justice lies in the hearts of the masses." When these words fell, a considerable number of celestial kings looked guilty. They had not stepped out to protect Ling Han, and a very large reason for that was that they were intimidated by the mighty reputation of the sealed emotion, heavenly venerable. That was right. Indeed, a heavenly venerate could not move easily, but it was not that they could not appear. Even if just a sliver of divine sense descended, could only be matched by a great many ninth heaven celestial kings. However, before that, even 8th heaven celestial kings would only be able to wait for death. Who dared to offend a heavenly venerate? Moreover, the imperial void celestial king was also indescribably powerful, and his battle prowess could even be ranked in the top 3 among the present 9th heaven celestial kings. So did he not worry that the former would exact vengeance on him in the future? But Ling Han was someone who had done a great service for the celestial realm. After all, was it really proper for them to just stand by and watch? A hot-tempered celestial king could not hold himself back, appeared in front of Ling Han with a flash, and said to the celestial king of the Shin clan, "Brother Shin, Please give me some face and don't make a move. The grudges of the juniors can be resolved by the juniors themselves. It would be best that we do not interfere. If the celestial kings would be interfering in all matters, wouldn't the world descend into complete chaos? The celestial king of the Shun clan sneered, Tong Xian, you want to protect this brat? Humph. Killing a comrade of the celestial realm in public is a severe crime that deserves death. Even if I made a move on him, it would only be safeguarding the rules of the celestial realm. What would be wrong about that? Not only did he want to attain vengeance for his descendant, he also wanted to use this opportunity to draw the Shun clan close to the sealed emotion. Heavenly Venerable. The foreign realm was invading, but the stand of the three heavenly venerates was extremely ambiguous, but no one believed that the heavenly venerates would just wait for death. They definitely had some other way of retreat. Thus, the celestial king of the Shen clan wanted to get their support and scheme for a route of survival for himself as well as his descendants. Tong Xian celestial king's right hand shook, and a spear that was completely covered with burning flames appeared in his grip. With a wave of his spear, his fighting spirit flooded out. Then you will have to pass through me first? He was like a man that guarded the pass, and even 10,000 wouldn't be able to break through. The celestial king of the Shun clan humphed, appearing slightly hesitant. Tong Xian celestial king was very strong, and his battle prowess could be ranked in the higher tiers among seventh heaven celestial kings. He was not confident that he could win, but now that the arrow was drawn, there was no way he could not release the arrow. Boom! Right at this moment, an incredibly frightening divine sense surged over. The clear heaven pass immediately reacted, glowing entirely and blocking this divine sense, but the city walls still moaned, as if they could not bear the pressure. It should be known that the clear heaven pass was strengthened generation after generation of countless celestial kings through day and night, and who knew how many formation patterns had been laid out. Even if a few dozen ninth heaven celestial kings joined forces, it would be difficult for them to damage it the slightest bit. Yet now, this was only a sliver of divine sense, yet caused the powerful fortress to tremble madly, being close to collapsing. What kind of concept was that? Heavenly Venerate. Everyone mouthed these words. The only one who could be so strong had to be Heavenly Venerable Tai. Even the battle between the Imperial Void Celestial King and the Eternity Celestial King and the others stopped. If a Heavenly Venerate descended, even if they were all added together, that would still not be enough. An incredibly enormous face appeared above the clear heaven pass. The clear heaven pass was already big enough, wasn't it? But compared with this face, it paled in comparison, showing just how humongous it was. Ling Han couldn't help but inhale sharply. This was the Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin, a true overlord of the foreign realm. Thankfully, this was not his true self, and merely a sliver of divine sense, but it was still so powerful it could drive others to despair. The Heavenly Venerate was right above them, and the entire clear heaven pass suddenly became incredibly silent. No matter what everyone was doing at this moment, they all stopped and looked up at the skies. At the same time, the celestial kings were incredibly wary, though this was just a sliver of divine sense, and was also being suppressed by the heaven and earth of the celestial realm. It still had the strength of a top-tier ninth heaven celestial king, and even a being like the Imperial Void Celestial King dared not be careless. Hand over the brat that has the origin magic cube, Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin spoke. His tone was even, yet it was filled with supreme authority. If everyone had to adhere to the regulations, then wasn't Heavenly Venerable tier which surpassed regulations capable of commanding actions to be done with mere words. Impossible! The Eternity Celestial King immediately refused decisively. Even the Imperial Void Celestial King's expression was cool, appearing disdainful. That was because he, too, wanted the origin magic cube. If Ling Han was handed over, Then the time for his breakthrough to the heavenly venerable tier would be pushed back. Who knew how much further in time? Stepping over this threshold was not an issue of talent, but more of luck. If that brat is not handed over, I will destroy that neutral zone. However, it would damage the stability of the connecting point of the two realms and give you several tens of billions of years to continue struggling. Heavenly venerate, Qiyin stated calmly. However, if that brat is handed over, I can swear a Tao oath that we will not invade for an epoch. When these words fell, quite a number of celestial kings looked tempted, and the thoughts of everyone in the whole of Clear Heaven Pass wandered wildly. The word of a heavenly venerate was naturally trustworthy. In other words, if the heavenly venerate Qiyin swore a Tao oath, this was completely believable. This was an epoch. Without any exaggeration, even an ascending origin tier could not possibly live for so long, and would have long since been killed by the immortals' tribulation. In other words, the majority would be able to finish living this life in peace and safety, and could even continue their line for countless generations. Wasn't this the peace that they had always yearned for? It was only sacrificing one person, and it could trade for such a long period of peace for the celestial realm. No matter how they thought about it, this was an extremely profitable matter. Of course, as long as the one to be sacrificed was not themselves. The Imperial Void Celestial King's eyes trembled slightly. He was not concerned about the survival of the celestial realm. What was the most important was if he could become a heavenly venerate himself. Youth, do not save a little only to lose a lot, heavenly venerate Qiyin said, evenly. No one knew what his words meant, but the Imperial Void Celestial King understood. These words were directed towards him, and it implicated the agreement that the sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable and the others had reached with the foreign realm. His hands curled into fists, his hair fluttering freely, nine-colored light flickering. An intense battle was presently taking place in his heart. But after only a while, the Imperial Void Celestial King shouted, and with a quick flash, he soon disappeared from sight. A great ninth heaven Celestial King, and one whose battle prowess could be ranked in the top 3, had been forced off with just mere words and surrendered an extremely great fortune. I will give you all a day's time to consider. If this boy is still not handed over, after a day, I will make my move, Heavenly Venerate Qiyin said calmly, and, with a tremor of his figure, he dispersed from sight. Instantly, everyone in Clear Heaven Pass broke into a commotion. They were all engaged in an intense debate. The Celestial Kings also exchanged looks. This was peace for an entire epoch, and even they were tempted. They truly did hope that Ling Han could become a heavenly venerate and lead the resistance against the foreign realm, but he was presently only an immortal palace tier. Even if there were celestial kings pouring their full efforts into nurturing him, becoming a heavenly venerate was still something that would only happen. Who knew how many years later? Chapter 2268, Handing Over. Chapter 2268, Handing Over. At present, the neutral zone was indeed capable of stopping the foreign realm from invading, but if a heavenly venerate interfered, he would be able to easily destroy it. Heavenly Venerate Qiyin had not lied. Even if this neutral zone was destroyed and shook the connecting point of the two realms, at most it would only be several tens of billions of years. That was indeed a very long time, but it was far from enough to produce a heavenly venerate. But an epoch was different. It was possible that an astonishing variable would appear. Thus, even those celestial kings that had previously felt sympathy for Ling Han were tempted, and felt that Ling Han should sacrifice himself for the sake of the celestial realm. Hand over Han Lin. A voice rang out in the Clear Heaven Pass. It was not known who had spoken, and it became louder and louder, drawing echoes from countless others and turning into an ocean of voices. The Clear Heaven Pass was very unique. There were no mountains or rivers in the city, only many soldier camps filled with people. Thus, the sound spread further and further, and there would not be any dead end, drawing the echoes from more and more people, all calling Ling Han's name. Previously, they had all been cheering, and at this moment, they were so impatient to hand Ling Han over in exchange for peace. Ling Han experienced a feeling that he did not know how to describe, feeling torn between laughter and tears. He was just like a princess of some smaller countries in a small world. All the citizens were hoping that he could be offered up in a matrimonial alliance, sacrificing himself to help the majority. But why was it he that had to be sacrificed? Who had asked his opinion? Moreover, so what if there was an epoch of peace? Without getting rid of the root of the problem, they would still have to suffer being invaded by the foreign realm after an epoch. Furthermore, why would Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin be so generous? The Origin Magic Cube was probably quite helpful for foreign realm elites as well. That was right. This contained the regulations of the celestial realm as well. If the foreign realm elites managed to comprehend them, they might be able to find a way to avoid being targeted by the heaven and earth of the celestial realm. By then, they would penetrate deeply into the celestial realm, and there would really be absolutely no hope left for the celestial realm. For the celestial realm, the true barrier was actually not Clear Heaven Pass, nor the ninth heaven celestial kings, nor any heavenly venerate, but rather the heaven and earth itself. What a joke. Now, there were too many people that had been blinded by an epoch of peace and could not even cast their sight further. I propose that Han Lin be handed over. A ninth heaven celestial king spoke up. The celestial king's expressions all changed. No matter how loudly the common people called out, they were just common people, but it was different now that a celestial king had spoken. This had truly brought the matter up to the table for discussion. And what was more of a mockery? They had actually summoned Ling Han to praise him, so how had it now become a discussion of whether he should be handed over to the foreign realm or not? At this moment, no one spoke. Celestial kings naturally prized their pride. Even if the majority had already agreed internally, they were not willing to express it and only wanted to bluff things over. I disagree. The Eternity Celestial King appreciated Ling Han's talent the most. Previously, he had already confronted the Imperial Void Celestial King directly, and now he similarly was defending Ling Han to his best efforts. Ling Han was very touched by this. To be frank, the Eternity Celestial King was completely no family or personal friend of his. This boy has astonishing natural talent for cultivation and also possesses the Origin Magic Cube. There is a very large possibility he could become a heavenly venerate. Brother Eternity, another celestial king said, it is uncertain whether this boy can become a heavenly venerate, and even if he could, that would only happen at least 1 or 2 epochs later. However, if we do not deliver this boy tomorrow, the heavenly venerate of the foreign realm will destroy the neutral zone. By then, will this boy still have any hopes of becoming a heavenly venerate? The Eternity Celestial King was displeased and replied, if the neutral zone was destroyed, Han Lin would only lose a world, but the Origin Magic Cube would not be destroyed due to that. He could still study the secrets of the heaven and earth through it. Eternity, it is just a few tens of billions of years. Is that enough? A celestial king that was built completely out of metal asked. His voice was also like metal scraping against metal, sharp and shrill. No. The Eternity Celestial King shook his head and did not exaggerate. That was too optimistic, and he deduced things realistically. Without several trillion years, even an epoch's time would not be enough. But if worst came to worst, we would just be guarding here like usual. The connecting point of the two realms is far from attaining stability, and there is no way that a heavenly venerate of the foreign realm can come over. With these words, quite a few celestial kings seemed persuaded. Though their defense was really very difficult now, hadn't Clear Heaven Pass still stood firmly without collapsing? Then, if they continued to stand guard for several trillion years more, or even an epoch, they would be more able to win a future that was filled with hope for the celestial realm. I still think we should hand him over, the Heavy Metal Celestial King said. His title was Heavy Metal, and he was also a veteran Ninth Heaven Celestial King. In that case, let's vote. The Eternity Celestial King did not bother to waste words. Those who agree on handing over Han Lin, raise your hand. When these words fell, The heavy metal celestial king was the first to raise his hand, and then more celestial kings raised their hands as well. The eternity celestial king swept over a glance and was instantly reassured. The number of celestial kings that agreed to hand Ling Han over was less than half. Could it be that we should not consider the public sentiment of Clear Heaven Pass? The celestial king of Shen Clan suddenly said. That's right. The public sentiment could be supportive or opposing. If we did not have the support of these troops, the celestial realm would have no qualified successors to carry on the undertaking. How then would we be able to continue sustaining wave after wave of assault from the foreign realm? The celestial kings that agreed to hand over Ling Han all said. The eternity celestial king sneered. Usually, in the eyes of these celestial kings, even ascending origin tiers were mere ants to them, and they did not deign to even cast a second look at them, and now they were actually talking about public sentiment. How utterly shameless. He was just about to speak, but Wang, a frightening divine sense assailed them, as heavy as a mountain and astonishingly terrifying. So what if they were ninth heaven celestial kings? They all experienced a feeling of helplessness. An eye was the first to appear, and then a face was squeezed out in the skies. Instantly, that majestic aura raised to another level. Sealed emotion heavenly venerable. A considerable number of ninth heaven celestial kings exclaimed softly, bearing complicated expressions. The heavenly venerable tier, the strongest power of a realm, but the sealed emotion heavenly venerable had not done anything for the celestial realm and only acted as if the invasion of the foreign realm did not exist. How could that not be disappointing? But who would dare rebuke him frankly? They did not even dare to discuss the matter privately. Greetings, my lord. All the celestial kings paid their respects. Ling Han glanced longer at him. The sealed emotion heavenly venerable was stately in bearing and looked to be in his 20s. His eyes were the brightest, just like the eyes of the heavens, and were seemingly capable of seeing the whole heaven and earth. I decree that this boy is to be handed over in exchange for piece of an epoch for the celestial realm, the sealed emotion heavenly venerable said, and that face rapidly dispersed. He had let his divine sense descend merely to say these words. Eternity, you have heard clearly. Lord Sealed Emotion has already decreed it. The heavy metal celestial king exclaimed. A heavenly venerate had personally commanded it, so it was naturally a sure bet that Ling Han would be handed over. No one could possibly change that. The eternity celestial king's fists clenched tightly, his eyes sweeping over them. Most of the celestial kings that had previously supported him had lowered their heads by now. Clearly, they did not dare to oppose a heavenly venerate. Who would have that courage? Since that is the case, apprehend this boy, the heavy metal celestial king stated calmly. He naturally would not deign to make a move on a mere immortal palace tier. The celestial king of the Shen clan leaped out. He would be very pleased to do the job. Ha 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 ha. Ling Han suddenly burst out laughing, wild and mad to the point of being completely unreserved, causing every celestial king to turn and look at him. Brat, this is not the neutral zone. You are only a mere mortal, the celestial king of the Shen clan declared coldly. Is that right? Chapter 2269. The Tower of Three Realms Recovers. Chapter 2269. The Tower of Three Realms Recovers. Ling Han's eyes swept over them as he stated, a group of celestial kings truly, high and haughty, flattering yourselves. Who are you people that you can freely decide my fate? I have done such a great service for the celestial realm, and what is the result? It was only in exchange for a fate of becoming a lowly prisoner of the foreign realm? Haha, this is really motivational. Do you people feel no shame? The heavy metal celestial king said, you are sacrificing yourself for the celestial realm. The future generations will remember your name, which will be forever etched in history. Ling Han's laughter became even more manic. He dispersed the heaven, deceiving technique, revealing his true appearance and aura, asking calmly, Han Lin is only my alias. My true identity is Ling Han. You people say you will remember my name. How will that be accomplished? The celestial kings were all speechless. Who would have thought that Ling Han would have come to clear Heaven Pass under a false identity? Was there anyone like that? This was battling for the celestial realm, which was incredibly glorious. But now, they felt as if Ling Han had slapped their faces. They actually said that they would remember Ling Han's name, but they were mistaken even about his real name. Damn brat, you actually dare deceive celestial kings. You are truly outrageously bold. Unless you have done something that could not be exposed, what need would there be for you to do such a thing? The celestial king of the Shin clan demanded. This was really being an endless pest, but now that a celestial king had spoken, that was equivalent to a golden rule. Even if it was false, it would become true. Ling Han smiled calmly. You people have truly disappointed me. However, there are still seniors like Lord Eternity defending me, making me feel that there is indeed still a sliver of hope for the celestial realm, and that is still worthy of being saved. Spare the nonsense. As a mere immortal palace tier, just shut your mouth. Obediently, the celestial king of the Shun clan moved, grabbing out at Ling Han. A heavenly venerate had issued a decree, and he had naturally dismissed all his reservations. He knew that Ling Han had the origin magic cube, but this was clear Heaven Pass, and not the neutral zone. The cube would only allow him to comprehend regulations. Furthermore, the Heaven and Earth origin star was absolutely useless against him. He was a seventh heaven celestial king. He was naturally absolutely certain that his attack would succeed. The Eternity Celestial King wanted to move, but even more celestial kings glanced coldly at him, so he had no choice but to suppress this urge. If he did make a move, he would be ganged up on by the joined forces of more than 10 other celestial kings. He was not the Imperial Void Celestial King, and was not that powerful. Do you think that I only depend on the origin magic cube? Ling Han sneered, calling out mentally to Small Tower. Boom! His aura instantly soared endlessly, immediately breaking through to the ascending origin tier, and then attaining Celestial King tier. First heaven, second heaven, third heaven. It was like there was no halt to his strength. You people have no idea what my trump cards are. What a joke. Ling Han said, coldly. At this time, his aura had spiked to seventh heaven, and it was enough for him to oppose the Celestial King of the Shin clan. The Celestial King of the Shun clan forcibly halted his assault. It was not because he thought that he was no match for Ling clan, but rather because this kind of transformation was really too unbelievable. This was not the neutral zone, so what basis did Ling Han have for being so strong? However, Ling Han's aura was still spiking. Very soon, it had surged past 8th heaven and advanced into 9th heaven, and it was still soaring. The Black Tower had fully recovered, assisting Ling Han in this glorious battle. Before leaving the neutral zone, Ling Han had spoken of something to Small Tower, and the topic of their discussion was the possible options if he encountered this kind of situation, and Ling Han's decision was to throw everything on the line and battle fiercely. Small Tower was a heavenly venerable tier precious tool, and though it had not recovered completely, they had still been in the celestial realm for a long time. After all, it had also stored up a great amount of energy, and it was no issue for it to help Ling Han fight a dazzling battle. TT could not help Ling Han unleash heavenly venerable tier battle prowess, but 9th heaven celestial king tier power and above, battle prowess close to pseudo-heavenly venerable tier was still doable. Ling Han looked coldly at the celestial king of the Shen clan. Weren't you jumping around very energetically? Jump around some more. All the celestial kings were astounded. At this moment, Ling Han's strength had overwhelmed them completely, and he was even slightly stronger than the Imperial Void Celestial King. But this brat actually had another precious treasure, and it was heavenly venerable tier. Wang, the Black Tower appeared from Ling Han's body. To allow Ling Han a glorious battle, it had to show itself. The Black Tower appeared once more after who knew how many years had passed. It floated above Ling Han's head, casting wave after wave of primal chaos. The black body of the tower was emanating power that surpassed the regulations of the heaven and earth, seals covering its surface, and even celestial kings could not distinguish them clearly. The Tower of Three Realms, a veteran celestial king exclaimed. 8 epochs ago, they had already become mighty figures, so they had naturally seen the Tower of Three Realms before. This was the precious tool of the karmic life, heavenly venerable. When the karmic life, heavenly venerable, had fused himself with heavenly Tao and destroyed the connecting point of the two realms, the Tower of Three Realms had torn a hole in space, and its whereabouts were unknown after. This precious tool had been severely damaged in the great battle against the foreign realm, and now they could still see the marks that the foreign realm elites had left on its surface. However, a heavenly venerable tier precious tool was indeed extraordinary. This aura was too overwhelming. Oh, as it turned out, Ling Han was the many generations heir of the karmic life, heavenly venerable. Just the thought of that caused sadness. At the time, for the sake of the celestial realm, the karmic life, heavenly venerable, had not hesitated to destroy and sacrifice himself in exchange for peace that lasted as long as 8 epochs for the celestial realm. But now, everyone was enjoying the benefits brought by the sacrifice of the karmic life, heavenly venerable, yet was also forcing his many generations disciple into dire straits. Ha 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 ha. The eternity celestial king laughed loudly, yet there were tears of blood at the corners of his eyes. Ling Han's eyes were menacing as he stretched out a hand and grabbed the celestial king of the Shen clan. Old geezer, is it very fun to bully the weak with your superior strength? Now, it is my turn to experience the fun. His time was limited. Firstly, the Black Tower could not possibly maintain this state for him continuously, and secondly, now that the Black Tower had appeared, it would draw those 3 heavenly venerates over not too much. Later, he had to settle this quickly. The celestial king of the Shen clan was about to cry. How could he have imagined that Ling Han had another trick like this? True, who would believe that the Origin Magic Cube was actually not Ling Han's strongest trump card? The celestial king of the Shen clan wanted to flee, but while he might be able to escape from the hands of a 9th heaven celestial king, faced with battle prowess that was close to heavenly venerable tier, fleeing was absolutely unrealistic. Ling Han grabbed him in a single stroke, and the celestial king of the Shen clan had fallen into his grip. Do you regret it? Ling Han asked, the killing intent in his eyes blazing and as cold as ice. I do. The celestial king of the Shen clan nodded. Discretion was the better part of valor. He was really about to die from regret. He was a 7th heaven celestial king. Why had he rushed to become the vanguard? And now it was great. He was actually publicly humiliated by a mere immortal palace tier. Ling Han nodded, and then his hands suddenly clenched. Pa, the celestial king of the Shen clan, immediately turned into bits of blood. In the face of pseudo-heavenly venerable tier power, he could not even last one attack. Quang! Thunder instantly boomed loudly, a rain of blood streaking. Boundless grief surged out. The heaven and earth was grieving for the death of a celestial king. A 7th heaven celestial king had died just like that, completely negligible in his death. It could not be helped. The celestial king of the Shen clan was facing a pseudo-heavenly venerate, and a mere 7th heaven could only go so far. Just now, how many more were shouting, "Step out and show me"? Ling Han stretched open his hand, his whole body bathing in the blood of a celestial king. He was like a great demon king that had come from the ancient age. At this moment, not one celestial king dared to reply. Though Ling Han was indeed very arrogant and was only a mere immortal palace tier who asked him to possess a heavenly venerable tier precious treasure, much less one that was capable of recovering, even a 9th heaven Celestial King would have to make a strategic retreat. Heavy metal geezer, they'll deal with you first. Ling Han moved in fury and grabbed out at the heavy metal Celestial King. Humph, do you think I am so easily bullied? The heavy metal Celestial King sneered. His strength could be ranked in the middle echelons among all ninth heaven Celestial Kings, and he was definitely not someone that the Celestial King of the Shun clan could compare with. Chapter 2270, Slaughtering Celestial Kings. Chapter 2270, Slaughtering Celestial Kings. Ling Han's hand descended, and the heavy metal Celestial King quickly stepped back. Though he had spoken very uncaringly, it was unknown just how wary he was of Ling Han. This was the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier, and he definitely could not oppose this power. Ling Han charged forwards. At present, he was the strongest being on the scene. Anyone's life could be decided on his mere whim. However, he could also understand the reasoning behind the majority wanting to put their own safety first, and was not incited into wanting to unleash a great massacre. However, he would definitely kill those few that had been the most vocal. Using his celestial techniques, he bore down on the opponent. A ninth heaven Celestial King stepped in, helping the heavy metal Celestial King to resolve his crisis. Ninth heaven Celestial Kings were pillars of support for Clear Heaven Pass, and any one of them was an incredibly precious part of local battle prowess. How could they just simply stand by and watch as one died by Ling Han's hand? However, a pseudo-heavenly venerable tier was too strong. Even a powerful Celestial King like the Imperial Void Celestial King could only flee in a panic, and only managed to escape by fleeing with his full efforts. The other Celestial Kings would not be qualified to do even that. Thus, Ling Han struck the heavy metal Celestial King in a mere few moves. With a harsh stomp, this ninth heaven Celestial King had turned into a bloody mush. Clang! A rain of blood descended from the heavens, and all life grieved together. This was too shocking. A mere immortal palace tier had actually killed a ninth heaven Celestial King. Everyone paled. Even if Ling Han had drawn on the power of the Black Tower, this kind of battle accomplishment was still incredibly dazzling. It could not be copied. Just how many heavenly venerable tier precious tools were there in this world? Hong Huang's expression was dark. He had never imagined that Ling Han was actually also the heir of a heavenly venerate, and was stronger than him at that. Moreover, he had a heavenly venerable tier precious tool in his possession. He could not compare. However, his expression did not change in the slightest. Instead, he only moved his feet, planning to rapidly leave the palace and flee. Ling Han had summoned his trump card, and it would definitively draw the three heavenly venerates over. Thus, he was undoubtedly going to die. Now, Hong Huang naturally had to avoid his sharpness. Otherwise, if he was killed by Ling Han, it would really not be worth it. Ling Han suddenly appeared in front of him and demanded in a cold tone, "Where are you going?" Hong Huang couldn't help but pale. At first, he had planned to flee using the opening created by the many Celestial Kings ganging up on Ling Han. He had not thought that Ling Han would actually have an eye on him even in such a situation, causing his plan to fail. "My master is the sealed emotion, heavenly venerable. Don't seek your own death." He did not panic and dissuade a threat towards Ling Han. Ling Han couldn't help but smile. "Hong Huang, I thought you would not feel afraid." Hong Huang humphed. Anyone would feel afraid, but the way that people handled fear was different. Some would kneel and beg for mercy, some would analyze the situation calmly, and some would battle with courage. His previous words were not humble, and it was also a real threat. What was wrong with that? "Ling Han, don't cause harm to yourself," Hong Huang said calmly. "If you leave now, there is still a sliver of hope. Otherwise, your death is guaranteed." Ling Han cracked a grin and said, "I beg to differ." Since he had already anticipated that this kind of situation would happen, how could he possibly Have missed thinking of a way out? He moved and grabbed out at Hong Huang. Scram! Hong Huang roared furiously. This word actually took solid form, emanating an aura of supreme dominance. It actually had a sliver of heavenly venerable tier might. This was a technique that the sealed emotion heavenly venerable had planted on him to use at the most dangerous moment to save himself. It could resolve even the attack of a ninth heaven celestial king. However, the person standing in front of him was no ninth heaven celestial king, but Ling Han, who was at the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. Wang. Ling Han's hand descended, and with a blast, this word was shattered. Practically without any pause, his giant hand descended resoundingly, grabbing Hong Huang in a single stroke. Ling Han, do you dare battle me as an equal? Hong Huang shouted loudly. He was really defiant. He was a great monarch star, the disciple of a heavenly venerate, with boundless future prospects laid out ahead of him. He definitely would be able to enter the ranks of the strongest of the celestial realm. Battle your sister. Ling Han ignored him and turned to deliver a punch, hitting a ninth heaven celestial king that wanted to save Hong Huang. After he sent out this punch, he bore down on him, planning to kill him with a single stroke. Even more celestial kings stepped out to stop him, but how could they possibly be able to block Ling Han? Celestial blood spurted time and again as celestial kings were killed by Ling Han's hand. The heavens continuously rained down blood without any pause. Hong Huang's expression became uglier and uglier. Ling Han was killing ninth heaven celestial kings as easily as If was slaughtering dogs, without any bit of hesitation at all. In comparison, what was he worth? If there were no accidents, he, too, would stop at the ninth heaven in future. And that was a matter of many years later. In this battle, it was almost like a hole was punched into clear heaven pass itself. Celestial kings died by the dozens. They were those that had previously been the most vocal and wanted to hand Ling Han over to the foreign realm to be dealt with. Wang, a terrifying aura attacked, and a hole was ripped open in the skies. Figure appeared, bearing an indescribably majestic aura. Crack. The heaven and earth raged, pouring lightning on that person, as if the world was about to end. Even if this was a ninth heaven celestial king, they would be hard-pressed, under pressure, but that man was completely at ease, and only acted as if this lightning was merely a light shower of rain. Wherever his gaze passed, the stars themselves were trembling, while winds and clouds were torn. This was too extraordinary. The sealed emotion heavenly venerable, he was the first to appear. Master! Hong Huang immediately called out, his tone filled with pleasant surprise. As he saw it, the sealed emotion heavenly venerable only had to appear, and everything could be easily resolved. He naturally would not die, either. Let him go, the sealed emotion heavenly venerable said evenly, but his voice was filled with a supreme intimidation, and even the ninth heaven celestial kings would involuntarily obey his words. This was a power that surpassed regulations. Yet Ling Han merely looked coldly at the sealed emotion heavenly venerable, and did not show a sliver of reverence. Even without the Black Tower, he, too, had experienced power beyond regulations, though he had not been as strong as the sealed emotion heavenly venerable. Qualitatively speaking, it was similar in level. He replied indifferently, no. The sealed emotion heavenly venerable did not speak any further. Instead, he stretched out a hand and grabbed out at Ling Han. Boom! The moment he moved, he arrived in front of Ling Han and pressed his palm heavily down on him. Crack! Lightning flashed once more in the heaven and earth. Innumerable lightning giants formed. They were all at the ninth heaven celestial king tier, and were even boundlessly close to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier, just like the imperial void celestial king. However, their number was overwhelmingly great. These lightning giants all lunged unleashing a fierce assault on the sealed. Emotion heavenly venerable. This was equivalent to thousands of ninth heaven celestial kings. 2. Terrifying. No wonder the imperial void celestial king had previously said that the heavenly venerates were hated by the heaven and earth and could not move. They willed. Indeed, he only had to appear, and he would be pestered by the divine lightning. The moment he made a move, he was targeted by the heaven and earth, which manifested millions and millions of lightning ninth heaven celestial kings to besiege him. This was extremely terrifying. Ling Han quickly retreated. The pseudo-heavenly venerable tier only had the additional label of pseudo. How could that match a true heavenly venerable tier? The sealed emotion heavenly venerable was unafraid of those lightning giants and did not even bother moving to parry their strikes. He merely charged forwards. Pong, pong, pong. Wherever he passed, all the lightning veers smashed into bits and pieces and could not cause the slightest bit of harm to him at all. His speed was too fast, and he caught up with Ling Han in an instant. Ling Han laughed and retorted, "So what if you are a heavenly venerate? You are definitely not omnipotent." Pa! With a harsh twist of his hand, Hong Huang's neck was instantly broken. And under the barrage of the power of regulation, Hong Huang's mind also exploded. He was completely and utterly dead. The reason why Ling Han had not immediately killed Hong Huang was because he had wanted to do this in front of the sealed emotion, heavenly venerable, so that the latter would know that even if he was a heavenly venerate, he, too, would have something that he could not accomplish. With a casual toss, Hong Huang's corpse was thrown aside. Then, with a flash, Ling Han entered into the Black Tower. Shio, the Black Tower exploded with its full speed, shooting towards the neutral zone. "Can you escape?" Another cold voice rang out. The skies were torn apart, and a supreme being with an astonishing aura walked out. Jiwu Heavenly Venerate. Chapter 2271. Hunted down by a heavenly venerate. Chapter 2271. Hunted down by a heavenly venerate. The sealed emotion heavenly venerable stated evenly, "I will leave that unworthy brat to you." Small matter. Jiwu heavenly venerate nodded and set off in rapid pursuit of Ling Han. Meanwhile, the sealed emotion heavenly venerable stretched out his hand towards Hong Huang as he asked, "Is there anything in this world that I cannot accomplish?" Hee. A majestic light surged in his hand, turning into a seal that was brimming with life energy. Clang! The lightning in the skies blazed even brighter, as if a massive hole was cracked open. Even more lightning giants surged forth, pouring down like floodwaters and charging towards the sealed emotion heavenly venerable. "If wish you to live, you will. If I wish for your death, then you can only die, and even the heavens cannot stop me," the sealed emotion heavenly venerable said calmly as he pressed down the seal. Boom! A dazzling light immediately blazed within Hong Huang's body. That seal had turned into an image and was being stored into Hong Huang's body. Those that were at the Celestial King tier could see it. Hong Huang's spirit that had originally dispersed was actually being consolidated under a mysterious power and entered once more into his body. Furthermore, it was quickly fusing back as one. In an instant, all the celestial kings were gaping, stunned to the point of absolute speechlessness. When one died, his Tao would be destroyed. Just now, Hong Huang's soul had definitely been shattered, making him deader than dead. It should be known that Ling Han presently had the strength of the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier, so wouldn't it be a simple thing for him to kill an immortal palace tier? Ugh! Hong Huang released a moan, and his eyes suddenly opened. At first, he was completely dazed, but then got his wits back. He quickly knelt down in front of the sealed emotion, heavenly venerable. "Master, thank you for saving my life." The celestial kings were even more astounded. This was too shocking. Even celestial kings like them could not believe the extent that heavenly venerable tier power had reached and how he could even resurrect a dead man. However, they also had some guesses internally. This should only be effective for those who had just died. Though their spirit had shattered, it had not yet dispersed completely and returned to the heaven and earth. Otherwise, even a heavenly venerate would be able to do nothing. Even so, this was still an extremely astonishing and heaven-defying power. What exactly was that seal? Did the celestial realm have this kind of regulations? Crack! A furious bolt of lightning suddenly struck towards Hong Huang, yet it had completely surpassed the range of the immortal palace tier and had reached celestial king tier. Hong Huang's death and revival was completely a breach of the regulations of heaven and earth. Thus, the heaven and earth sent down a punishment of lightning, intending to erase this kind of existence. The sealed emotion heavenly venerable waved his hand and looked towards the skies. You will not be able to kill anyone that I wish to live. Whatever karma there is, I will bear it. Clang, the heaven and earth raged even fiercer, repeatedly sending furious bolts of lightning, but even the strongest was only at the ninth heaven celestial king tier. However, there were really too many of them. Even the strongest ninth heaven celestial king would be tired to death, but for a heavenly venerate, this was like child's play. Half a day later, the divine lightning disappeared. Though the heaven and earth was powerful, it could only take action via the regulations. Even a divine punishment could only last half a day. Once that time passed, it could be considered as having obtained the approval of the heaven and earth. In other words, Hong Huang had truly come back to life and would no longer be targeted by the heaven and earth. This power was heaven-defying, really heaven-defying. All the celestial kings all looked at the sealed emotion, heavenly venerable, reverently. Practically no one had ever seen a heavenly venerate move, but now it was only a slight glimpse of a sliver of their might, and they knew that the power of a heavenly venerate surpassed any limits that they could imagine. The sealed emotion, heavenly venerable, crossed his hands behind his back. He looked at the neutral zone and suddenly frowned. Boom! The sound of a colossal explosion was heard, and an indescribable shock wave of power surged over. As the whole clear heaven pass trembled violently, brick after brick fell off of the strong fortress, as if it was about to be destroyed. When this blast surged past, everyone shockingly discovered that a colossal pit had appeared in the distance. A frightening kind of energy originated from the ground, flowing up towards the skies. It could be seen that the regulations there had become an ocean, pieces and pieces of them. The neutral zone had disappeared, and had now become a whirlpool of wild energy. Not even ninth heaven celestial kings could barge into this whirlpool of energy. They would definitely be killed, because this had surpassed regulations. It was the heaven and earth howling. Probably even heavenly venerable tier would keep away from such great power. No wonder the sealed emotion heavenly venerable had frowned. What exactly had happened? That said, Ling Han raced rapidly, steering the black tower. Xiao, his speed was astonishing. Though the Jiwu heavenly venerate had appeared, Small Tower had previously been very confident. Though it could not oppose a heavenly venerate, it was not difficult for it to flee from the pursuit of a heavenly venerate. You can't escape. Jiwu heavenly venerate moved. Before his voice was even heard, his hand had already descended. It was actually hot on the tail of the black tower. Like the sealed emotion heavenly venerable, he, too, was attacked by countless lightning giants. Though they could not harm him, it still affected his attacks and speed. As his palm descended, the black tower flashed and narrowly escaped, continuing to charge forwards at full speed. Small Tower's confidence was not for nothing. Jiwu heavenly venerate humphed. He felt a mysterious discomfort and kept feeling that Ling Han had some karmic connection with himself. Even a heavenly venerate's memory would be erased after leaving the time stream because this was a power of heaven and earth. As long as you could stand and battle freely in this world, that meant that your strength was still inferior to the heaven and earth, so how could he possibly oppose the heaven and earth? To a heavenly venerate, this kind of feeling was very, very rare, but since it had appeared, he would get to the bottom of things. Jiwu heavenly venerate moved once more and grabbed out at Ling Han. However, with how fast the Black Tower was going, it entered the neutral zone in a flash. Pong! This blow from the Jiwu heavenly venerate landed on the heaven and earth of the neutral zone. The whole world immediately shook uncontrollably. It was as if it was formed from fragile crystal and could be shattered at any moment. Even inside the Black Tower, Ling Han spat out a mouthful of blood. He was one and the same with the neutral zone. If one was damaged, the other would be harmed as well. However, he exited the Black Tower without hesitation. With a thought, he already appeared on the other end of the neutral zone, the end that was connected with the heaven and earth of the foreign realm. His form immediately changed as horns sprouted from his head, and a tail sprouted from his behind. Meanwhile, his feet became the hooves of a bull, and his skin tuned red. Furthermore, his aura was also drastically changing. It was incredibly and extraordinarily weak, but had perfectly assimilated with the foreign realm. He took a step and entered into the heaven and earth of the foreign realm, and the heaven and earth of the foreign realm had no reaction and did not target him. Correct. Ling Han had never considered taking shelter in the neutral zone. He had long since thought of his escape plan, and that was the foreign realm. Why? Firstly, the Tower of Three Realms had revealed itself, and he would definitively be hunted down by heavenly venerable tears after this. Then, at most, he would only be able to attain 11th secret, and would never have any hope of advancing into the ascending origin tier. This was something he could not accept. Only if he fled into the foreign realm would the sealed emotion heavenly venerable and the others be unable to continue hunting him. Even if they did, he was not afraid. The regulations of the two realms were different, and even a heavenly venerate could not predict his whereabouts. Secondly, the overall level of the regulations of the foreign realm was superior to the celestial realms. If he cultivated here, he could raise his battle prowess to a higher level. Of course, he had had practically no contact with the regulations of the foreign realm before, and had to start again from the very beginning. For example, his cultivation level had now fallen back to the Genesis tier. To completely conceal his identity, Ling Han gave up all regulations of the celestial realm. His own battle prowess had already boundlessly decreased, but there were still regulations of the celestial realm locked up within the Black Tower. Though he could not get any replenishment, it was enough to allow Ling Han to unleash the battle prowess of a second secret monarch star after extracting them, and battle vigorously for a good few times. Thirdly, Who knew? The Empress and the others could also be tempered in the foreign realm. Who knew? Perhaps they would be able to rebuild their foundations and advance into the ranks of monarch stars. Chapter 2272, First Arrived. Chapter 2272, First Arrived. Wuxia World. Site copyright. Please visit Wuxia World. Site to support our website. Ling Han had never been sloppy in his actions. Thus, after he made his decision, he put it into practice without any hesitation. He strode forwards. This was already the heaven and earth of the foreign realm. It was completely barren, and he was only at the Genesis tier at present. In other words, that was the fifth lotus of the foreign realm, which was pitifully weak, a little like how he had been when he first entered into the celestial realm. However, his true cultivation level was the immortal palace tier. Even if he had to recultivate the regulations of the foreign realm, his rate of cultivation would still be astonishingly rapid. He only had to make some slight adjustments. I can't use the Black Tower anymore. Without replenishment from the power of the heaven and earth of the celestial realm, every use means one use less left. It can only be used at the most crucial time, Ling Han thought as he continued to walk forwards. His body art had long since attained the ascending origin tier. Though this was not of much help in improving his battle prowess, it was very useful at this time. Even if he did not have the supportive power of regulation, his speed was still extremely fast, being capable of matching the Severing mundane tier. Oh, now that he was here, this should be 6 lotus. Pong! Behind him, the neutral zone was trembling madly, causing his face to pale as he spat out another mouthful of blood. Jiwu Heavenly Venerate was still blasting the neutral zone, as if he was determined to barge in by force. A terrifying aura surged past, and a figure as tall as millions and millions of meters appeared at the foreign realm side of the neutral zone. His whole body was enshrouded in flames and was indescribably terrifying. Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin. Ariand, what is the meaning of this? Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin asked calmly. Do you wish to ruin our agreement? Jiwu Heavenly Venerate's message immediately traversed over via divine sense. The heir of the karmic life, Heavenly Venerable, has fled into this region, and I must capture him. However, if you destroy this heaven and earth, you will definitely destroy the stability of the connecting point between the two realms. Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin stated the stakes of the matter. Friend, don't forget our goal. What else could compare? Jiwu Heavenly Venerate humphed and retorted. That brat has also obtained the origin magic cube and has now escaped into this area. If I do not destroy it, who else could do anything against him? N? Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin faltered. He had completely not expected that the heir of the karmic life, Heavenly Venerable, and the brat that had obtained the origin magic cube were actually the same person. What great fortune, he said. Jiwu Heavenly Venerate nodded. Do you know why I am so determined to get rid of him now? To prevent a second karmic life, Heavenly Venerable, from appearing. This boy must be gotten rid of, Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin agreed. Then let us destroy this heaven and earth together, Jiwu Heavenly Venerate said. He alone was naturally also capable of doing so, but it would need some time. After all, and at present, he wanted no unexpected surprises. The longer the time he spent here, the more powerful the backlash from the heaven and earth would be, and eventually the heaven and earth would even suppress him directly. This was something that even he could not bear. Boom! The two great Heavenly Venerates moved at the same time, blasting the neutral zone. Wah! Ina far location. Ling Han threw up blood continuously, feeling like his body was about to shatter. Thankfully, the focus of the Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin was completely on blasting the neutral zone. Otherwise, he could have discovered his presence with only a careless sweep, and might have been able to see something off. Half a day later, the whole neutral zone shattered with a boom, and Ling Han spat out practically the last drop of blood in his body, being weakened to the extreme. He stumbled onwards, wanting to leave this dangerous location. Both Jiwu Heavenly Venerate and Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin exclaimed in surprise. While the neutral zone had already been destroyed and turned into a whirlpool of wild energy, they still did not see Ling Han flee from within. This brat had the protection of the Black Tower and was also the master of the neutral zone, so he had to have fled before the world crumbled. Why was there completely no movement? Friend, are you sure this brat entered into this area? Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin asked. This was nonsense. How could a Heavenly Venerate have seen wrongly? Jiwu Heavenly Venerate shook his head and asked, could it be that you have not seen if that brat has fled over to your side? No. Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin shook his head. If a person of the celestial realm came over here, they would be like a sun in the darkness. There is absolutely no way that they could escape from my senses. Jiwu Heavenly Venerate's expression changed. That brat has obtained the origin magic cube. That is a fusion of the heaven and earth of the two realms, and must carry a sliver of the power of regulations from your side. Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin paused and asked, what you mean is that brat has already comprehended the regulations of our realm and disguised himself as one of our realm? Other than that, there is no way to explain this matter, Jiwu Heavenly Venerate said with absolute certainty. Ling Han had definitely not fled here just to wait for death. All right, I will immediately issue a decree to hunt down that brat. Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin nodded. Even if he could comprehend the regulations of our realm, his cultivation level must be extremely low and weak. I will inspect the world, and if there is any heresy, they would definitely not escape my eyes and ears. Then I will trouble you, friend, Jiwu Heavenly Venerate answered smilingly. It is all for the sake of truly surpassing the heaven and earth. Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin also smiled. Then, he turned around, and his gigantic figure also immediately disappeared. If anyone from the celestial realm was here, they would definitely pale in shock. Juwu Heavenly Venerate was actually fraternizing with a Heavenly Venerate of the foreign realm, as if they were good friends. No wonder the three Heavenly Venerates had never moved against the invasion of the foreign realm. They were calling each other friends. And at this time, Ling Han had already run to a mountain village. The buildings here were strikingly different from the celestial realms. They were all houses made from wood, with sharpened sticks stabbed everywhere, as if the whole house was made into a porcupine. The people staying here were all human in form, but some bore a soul horn, while some had twin or three horns, and this was the only difference. Ling Han did not enter into the village, but rather found a remote location in the nearby mountains and began to heal his injuries. All the alchemical pills in his possession could no longer be used. Furthermore, the indestructible Heaven Scroll was also completely useless because it was drawing only from the regulations of the celestial realm, and that could not be done here. Thankfully, Ling Han's physique was indeed stunning. This part was genuine and solid, and would not be weakened just because the heaven and earth was different. Depending on his own physique, he slowly recovered. After all, it was not himself that was injured, but rather that he had sustained a backlash from a world-shattering. What this needed was only time. And now, Ling Han had a considerable amount of time. He entered into the Black Tower. The time acceleration effects inside had already stopped. This would greatly expend the power of the Black Tower, and in this place, this had become an exorbitant luxury. Ling Han, what happened? Hunyo asked hurriedly. Meanwhile, the Empress helped him up, using her extremely feminine and seductively captivating breasts to cushion Ling Han's head. Ling Han grinned and replied, almost got into a fight with a few heavenly venerates. Everyone could not help but sweat madly. This husband was really getting more and more capable. Lu Yutong and the other women also came over, and Ling Han narrated the present situation they were in, which the women were shocked at. They had actually come to the foreign realm. No need to worry, Ling Han said smilingly, and drew out the origin magic cube. Initially, it had already fused with him, and there was no way he could take it out, because no matter how strong he was, there was no way he could match the heaven and earth. However, now the neutral zone had already been destroyed, and the origin magic cube had also become a vessel purely for comprehending the regulations of the two realms. Everyone, just get ready to become residents of the foreign realm for a good number of years. Chapter 2273, Living in Seclusion. Chapter 2273, Living in Seclusion. Thankfully, the women had all advanced into the severing mundane tier at least, and were qualified to touch the regulations of heaven and earth. Thus, everyone was taking turns to hold the origin magic cube, and would still be able to comprehend something. Unfortunately, the time acceleration effects of the Black Tower and the reincarnation tree could not be used any longer. Frankly speaking, this was all regulations, the power of the heaven and earth, and the two were based on the celestial realm. Now that they had left the celestial realm, it was like being a fish out of water or a weed without roots. They would very quickly exhaust all the power that had been stored up. The Black Tower was still very useful as it could provide a hiding place at least. Thus, its power naturally could not be exhausted, and they would lose this very most important use thereof. Even if it took time, it would be fine. There was no rush. Year after year passed. At least 300 years later, Ling Han finally recovered his injuries, and the women had also had some slight improvement in the comprehension of regulations, but they were still who knew how long away from being capable of disguising themselves as members of the foreign realm, and just made a grand appearance. Thankfully, the immortals' tribulation would only come once every 100 million years, and there was no need for them to worry. 1,000, 5,000, 30,000 years. Time passed quickly, and it was a rare opportunity for Ling Han and the women to enjoy a relaxed, peaceful life. If it were not for the fact that they still had too many concerns, they would really plan to just spend the rest of their lives in this manner. Ling Han smiled. With these 30,000 years of comprehending Tao, he had finally fully strengthened his foundations, and was now qualified to break through to the severing mundane tier. Come at me. He exited the Black Tower, and began breaking through to the severing mundane tier. Because he had actually advanced to the severing mundane tier long ago, this was equivalent to destroying his cultivation level and starting again from the very beginning. Thus, there was no need for him to go to any severing mundane tier mystery realm. The moment his cultivation had reached that level, he would naturally be able to break through. It only took a mere 3 days, and he had once again become a severing mundane tier. Bang! Thunder boomed in the heaven, and earth as dense clouds rolled over, lightning flashing in their depths. Ling Han released a battle cry as he charged up into the skies and began to confront the heavenly tribulation. This was a heavenly tribulation of the foreign realm. Ling Han was very interested in it and wanted to experience it properly. Boom! A wide bolt of lightning struck downwards, as if a divine sword. Ling Han confronted it with raised fists, and the moment they came into contact with each other, he nodded internally. The heavenly tribulation of the foreign realm was indeed stronger than the celestial realms. Thus, in a battle of equal levels, the cultivators of the foreign realm should be stronger. It was no wonder that even Shichanzi, Hong Huang, and other monarch stars were no match for them. Only the Rain Emperor, Ji Wuming, and Hu Niu could be exempted. That was because the side of the celestial realm was at a disadvantage by nature. The people of the foreign realm kept calling the celestial realm a super low-level dimension, and this was indeed correct. Then what level of dimension is the foreign realm? Ling Han mumbled. I am really quite curious. The heavenly tribulation of the foreign realm actually took a long time, about 16 hours. When Ling Han's figure descended, he was already a first severance. First severance. Ling Han nodded. If I return to the celestial realm now, I would be able to easily defeat a third severance. This was extremely extraordinary. It was because those striking the heaven and earth could only be called kings, and only a fifth severance could be called an emperor tier. At present, Ling Han was only a first severance, so it was natural that he had not entered into the ranks of monarch tiers, yet could actually win even with a gap of 2 minor levels. This was practically inconceivable. The power of regulation of the celestial realm is indeed inferior to the foreign realm, yet it is not a full advantage. Furthermore, there are still some desirable traits, with each compensating for the other's shortcomings. That is why my battle prowess can be so strong. Ling Han was very pleased. Though he had been forced into escaping to the foreign realm, this actually could not be considered a bad thing. When he returned to the celestial realm, Ji Wuming probably would not be able to match him any longer in a battle of equals. I should go and check out farther places. Ling Han strode forwards, roaming the expansive world of the foreign realm and experiencing the charms of this world. In truth, there was no good or evil about the heaven and earth. After one had truly entered into this world, one would uncover the beauty of this world. However, in the foreign realm, the human-shaped beings would all have tails of an ox and horns, while the fierce beasts would be those insect types. Occasionally, he could see massive worms crawling in the jungle, hunting mosquitoes, flies, ladybugs, and so on. The overlords that flew around in the skies were no mighty bird, but rather moths and cockroaches. The plants here were also slightly unique. They were mainly colored in dark themes. In fact, even the rolling waters of rivers were more inclined to darkness, making one wonder if they could really be drunk. Ling Han shook his head and mumbled, if Hu Niu knew, she would definitely feel sad because there is no beast meat here for her. 3 years later, he walked out of this barren plain. The first city of the foreign realm appeared ahead of him. His first reaction was, is this really a city? This is completely a bird's nest. However, this bird's nest was really majestic and colossal, definitely no smaller than a city of the celestial realm. Till sneak in and take a look. Though that was his plan, Ling Han did not immediately put it into action, but rather observed the other people that were entering the city. He had to know what kind of payment there was for entering into the city. If it required something like star stones, and he could not produce it, wouldn't that draw suspicion? He definitely would not believe that the heavenly venerate of the foreign realm would allow him to roam around freely here and be a guest. After watching for a while, Ling Han found out that the currency used in the foreign realm was actually no different than what was used in the celestial realm and was also star stones. However, because the heaven and earth of the two realms were different, star stones were actually different as well. If Ling Han took out the star stones of the celestial realm, that would be equivalent to announcing that he came from another world. Thankfully, I killed a great many celestial kings of the foreign realm before, and I have also obtained a great deal of foreign realm star stones. Ling Han strutted over. In the foreign realm, 6 Lotus had just entered into the ranks of elites. He tossed out some star stones, and the guards did not even dare to say anything, but merely invited him respectfully into the city. This was a city that was mainly occupied by humans. There were people that walked on 2 legs everywhere, but they just had horns growing from their heads and were dragging a long tail behind them. Ling Han found a restaurant and then sat down, sipping wine slowly and listening to the idle conversations of those around him. A restaurant was always the place to get information the fastest. As expected, he had become a wanted criminal. The foreign realm Heavenly Venerate had issued a Heavenly Venerable Tier decree, requesting that everyone in the entire foreign realm mobilize and search for an intruder from the celestial realm. The decree mentioned that this person should have grasped the ways of the foreign realm, so any unusual situation would have to be reported to the higher-ups. Unlike the celestial realm, even a normal person here knew of the existence of the Heavenly Venerable Tier and honored them as supremely noble deities, worshipping them reverently as they could gain a boost of battle prowess. Realization dawned on Ling Han. Those evil cults in the celestial realm should also be worshipping these heavenly venerates of the foreign realm. This kind of power was indeed great to actually be usable even in the celestial realm. Power of belief. This suddenly came to him. This was a power that was independent of the heaven and earth, and was born from the hearts of the people, which did not belong to the heaven and earth. No wonder it could be used in the celestial realm. Tam now a fugitive, Ling Han thought. Though I have used the regulations of the foreign realm to disguise myself, without the heaven-deceiving technique, probably even a 9th Lotus elite would be able to see through me. Hence, I must avoid encountering these elites. He stayed a whole day in the restaurant before he finally left. Then, he looked for a time cultivation chamber in the city, or something along those lines. Don't say, though the level of this city could not be considered high, it really had this kind of place, but the acceleration effect was only 10 times. This was already very extraordinary because this city was equivalent to a 1-star city of the celestial realm. In the celestial realm, how could a 1-star city possibly have a time cultivation chamber? That was something that only a 4-star city could be equipped with. Ling Han went there. Though the 10x time acceleration effect was pitifully small, it was better than nothing. He focused on cultivation, progressing through the cultivation levels quickly. He was standing at the heights of Immortal Palace tier, and recultivation of the Severing Mundane tier would only require making up for the regulations, and added with the fact that he also had the Origin Magic Cube, it would be strange if his progress was slow. Thus, merely 3,000 years later, Ling Han had come once more to the 5th Severance. Chapter 2274, Demon, Angel. Chapter 2274, Demon, Angel. Hunyo and the other women gradually broke through to the Severing Mundane tier. It could not be helped. Previously, they had not had the free time to study the regulations of the Origin Magic Cube. Furthermore, with such *** use of the Origin Magic Cube, they naturally could not be compared to Ling Han. However, it was fine once they had advanced into the Severing Mundane tier. They could disguise themselves and move freely in the foreign realm. At present, there was completely no difference between Ling Han and any other person of the foreign realm. His forehead had a 6-petal lotus flower with 5 leaves beneath it. This was the most direct sign of cultivation level for a foreign realm cultivator. 6 petals meant that he was in the Severing Mundane tier, and 5 leaves indicated that he had completed the 5th Severance. Of course, the lotus flower could also be withdrawn, and there was no need to show it to others. After Hunyo and the other women advanced into the Severing Mundane tier, their rate of cultivation immediately sped up. The major tier was a barrier, especially when it was a switch from the regulations of the celestial realm to the regulations of the foreign realm. This was really, really difficult. But once they had crossed over, it would be a level road ahead of them. Of course, Lu Yutong and the other women were initially only at the first severance as well, and definitely could not be compared to Hun Yo, the Empress, and bewitching Maiden Ro. Ling Han decided to switch locations. The time acceleration effect of 10 times was really too low, and he was not short of cash. Previously, he had robbed countless celestial kings of all their wealth. At present, he only wanted to spend, and spend. He first understood a vague outline of the situation in the foreign realm, and then set off, heading to Fire Beacon City. It was a 5-star city, with time cultivation chambers that reached an efficiency as high as 500x time acceleration boost. As Ling Han saw it, he had to recover his cultivation level to the Immortal Palace tier as soon as possible, no matter what. He purposely bought a carriage for transport. This trip to Fire Beacon City would take as long as 3 years, and that time could not be wasted. Furthermore, he had also spent a lot of money to build the carriage itself as a time cultivation chamber as well. Really, not even the slightest bit of time would be wasted. They exited the city and headed north. Very soon, Ling Han discovered that aside from the regulation of darkness, the foreign realm also had another type of regulations. Regulations of light. Light and darkness were opposites and were incompatible with each other. Where there was light, there would definitely be no darkness, and where there was darkness, there would be no light. They were even more starking opposites than water and fire, with absolutely no possibility of coexistence. When Ling Han sensed the regulations of light, he, too, had entered into a completely different area. These words were spoken by the coachman, also a young man. He, too, had snow-white feathered wings, with a halo above his head, his eyes like balls of lightning. Long, too, the young man that had spoken previously showed a hint of wariness. So Fairy Yunhe has arrived. Forgive the impoliteness. Now that you know, scram, the coachman, Long Tu, said disdainfully. Long Tu, my respect is for Fairy Yunhe, not you, the young man said. Our Lady Darla is ranked equally with Fairy Yunhe, so what are you so proud about? Long Tu smiled arrogantly. How can Darla be capable of being our fairy's equal? A horse really doesn't know it has a long face. Arrogance. The young man from before immediately moved, leaping towards the carriage. How dare you? Boom! A palm struck from within the carriage. It was as fair as jade, yet bore a frightening might. Pong! That young man was immediately sent flying, traces of blood at the corner of his lips. Long Tu, ascend the mountain. A voice rang out from the carriage again. It was very crisp and melodious, yet also carried a boundless pride. Understood. Long Tu replied respectfully, his eyes sweeping over the young man on the ground. His face bearing an expression of contempt, he flicked his horse's whip, and the carriage instantly set out again, heading up the mountain. That young man also got to his feet as he wiped away the traces of blood at the corner of his lips, an expression of malice on his face. When his eyes swept over and spotted Ling Han, he couldn't help but show a furious expression and shouted, "What are you looking at? Are you tired of living?" He was already angered, yet knew that there was absolutely no way he could get his vengeance on that Fairy Yunhe. This made him even more pissed off, and he wanted to find someone to vent his anger. Ling Han smiled and asked, "I am only a passerby. Whom have I offended?" "Me." The young man moved, grabbing out at Ling Han. Wong, his fingers tuned into blades. This blow was definitely not for capturing Ling Han, but rather to kill him. Ling Han originally did not have any positive feelings for people of the foreign realm, and seeing how this man was so arrogant, his killing intent also blazed naturally. With a casual strike, Siwa, a sword light surged past, and Pu, the right arm of this man was severed. If it were not for the fact that he was presently a fugitive, Ling Han would not have restrained himself so much. He would have long since taken the youth's life. "Ah!" the young man screamed, his face filled with pain. At the same time, there was also disbelief in his expression. This average-looking young man in front of him actually had such great strength. Chapter 2275, 100 Fruits Tree. Chapter 2275, 100 Fruits Tree. Ling Han stared at that young man and said menacingly, "If you continue to pester me, I will kill you without mercy." That young man glared harshly at Ling Han, yet did not dare say anything else. He was no idiot, and naturally knew just how wide the gap was between himself and Ling Han. If he continued to act stubborn and said some fierce lines, it would only be asking for his own humiliation. He simply turned and left, actually ascending the mountain first. He should be going off to Sao Discord. Ling Han thought for a while. There was a celestial medicine on the mountain, and it was certain that a battle would break out between him and the master of that young man if he wanted to interfere, so he was not concerned that the other party would be wailing about him. He was naturally unafraid. It was not that he had not seen monarch stars of the foreign realm before. Worse come to worst, he would extract the power of regulation of the celestial realm from the Black Tower, battle fiercely, and then flee quickly. Of course, this was a last resort. He had entered the foreign realm not merely to evade the pursuit of a foreign realm, heavenly venerate. A more important mission was to train himself to a higher level in the foreign realm. Ling Han had made a detailed comparison of the regulations of the two realms. For example, in the case of regulations of time, the foreign realms was more comprehensive. To make a slightly unsuitable analogy, the regulations of the foreign realm and celestial realm were like two houses. One was built from stone, while the other was made from wood. They both could be considered shelters, but the degree of protection they offered was strikingly different. Because he had once been the master of a world, Ling Han had a deeper understanding of this. The overall level of the heaven and earth of the foreign realm was indeed higher than the celestial realm. Thus, the regulations were more comprehensive, detailed, and abundant, and in fact, they had a higher upper limit. There was one thing that Ling Han had long since noticed, and that was that when the heavenly venerate Qi Yin appeared, he had not been struck by lightning from the heavens. Heavenly Venerable Tier had surpassed regulations and was not recognized by the heaven and earth. The moment they appeared, they would be hated by the heaven and earth, and if they moved, they would suffer a backlash. Both the Jiwu Heavenly Venerate and Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable had proved this point. But this could not be seen with Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin. Why? Was it because the overall level of the foreign realm was higher and could allow Heavenly Venerable Tier to avoid it? Ling Han could not confirm, because it might be that Heavenly Venerate Qi Yin was the only exception. It could also be that he had obtained some kind of secret technique. Ling Han needed a case study of more individuals to confirm this hypothesis. As he thought this, he strode up the mountain. This mountain was not very tall, yet it was extremely majestic, with a vast aura and possessing an indescribable imposing air. As Ling Han walked, a strange feeling rose up in him. It was like there was a mysterious power that was making him want to kneel down in sincere worship. He humphed. For better or worse, he had once been the master of a world, so he was very broad-minded. How could he possibly kneel down to anyone? However, there were really a great many people kneeling on either side of the mountain path. Their faces were filled with reverence and even fanaticism. Ling Han was slightly curious. Could it be that this mountain had some kind of significance? Unfortunately, the map that he had bought was too simple and crude. He could only find the names of great mountains and rivers. As for this mountain, it was too small and hadn't even been drawn on the map. There were really many people that were kneeling along the way, but they were all Six Lotus without exception. In other words, they were cultivators of the severing mundane tier. There were both those of the demon race and angel race present, but the insect race and holy beasts appeared here as mounts, and their cultivation level also looked to be only 4th or 5th lotus. Ling Han understood now. Like the celestial realm, the dominant role in the cultivation world was still played by humans. Beast type could only cast off their image of a mount or ferocious beast after they had attained a very high cultivation level. There was very great pressure here. It was formed by regulations. Ling Han studied it closely and discovered that it was of slight value for reference, but compared with the Origin magic cube, it was still inferior. It was really only worthy of slight reference. According to that, could it be that this place was some kind of holy land? The people kneeling on the ground were not only worshipping, more of them were comprehending Tao. The mountain was really not very tall, but because of this pressure, Ling Han wasn't walking very fast either. He only arrived at the summit after a whole 30 minutes. The top was a massive plateau, and there were at least a dozen circles of people here. The highest number was definitely in the outermost circle, where there were more than 200, and there were only 11 people in the innermost circle. And in the center of this plateau, there was a purple celestial tree bearing fruits of various shapes and types. There were some shaped like humans, beasts, and insects. There was no fruit that looked the same as another. Ling Han counted, and there were a total of 108 fruits here. That adhered to the number of stars in the Big Dipper. As expected, celestial medicines did not just grow randomly. His eyes swept over and saw that the carriage belonging to Fairy Yunhe that he had seen previously was stopped at a position below the summit, and Long Tu was presently seated at the outermost circle, staring intently at that celestial tree, as if he hoped that a fruit would drop from it. Why was he not harvesting it? Very quickly, Ling Han understood. There was a giant seal beneath the fruit tree, vaguely flickering with light and causing one to feel trepidation. This was a celestial king tier seal, and might possibly have reached 9th heaven celestial king tier, or 18th lotus. Strange. Since even an 18th lotus king had planted this seal, why did so many people dare to come? Could it be that they wanted to snatch food from the tiger's mouth? Someone turned around and shouted at Ling Han, "Don't just stand there. Find a place to sit down quickly. Don't you know this is a holy land?" It was a person that was seated in the outermost circle, his expression filled with impatience. That was because Ling Han was standing just behind him, causing him to feel annoyed for some inexplicable reason. Ling Han chuckled. At present, he was not sure of the situation, so he squeezed in outside and sat together with that person. This person was of the angel race, with an especially handsome appearance. Ling Han began to strike up a conversation with this person and soon found out the details of this person. He was in June, the attendant of a prodigy who was a character like Long Tuesday. This time, he had also come with his master. Initially, there was absolutely no possibility that he could come here. It was all thanks to his master. And this mountain was called Enmity Mountain, and it had been boosted with great power by an 11th Lotus King after succeeding Tao. He had planted a celestial medicine here, and its name was 100 Fruits Tree. It would only bloom every 10 billion years and then bear fruit, but it would take another 10 billion years for the fruits to ripen. When flowers bloomed, this would become a holy land of cultivation. The fragrance of the flowers contained the regulations of the great Tao, and after bearing fruit, an image of great Tao would soar from the whole celestial medicine. Similarly, it would also have the effects of helping and comprehending Tao. But the most precious entity was naturally still the fruits. Consuming one would bring extremely great benefits. However, supreme regulations had been planted on the celestial medicine, and it could not be easily harvested. It was not that it could not be harvested, but rather harvesting it would be extremely difficult. This was the gift bestowed by that elite on future generations, and was also a test as well. If you wanted it, you could take it. That depended on your own abilities. Why were only 6 lotus cultivators visible here? That was because this 18th lotus elite had thus ruled. Only 6 lotus could ascend this mountain, and others would not be able to do so. Whether their cultivation level was higher or lower, they would not be allowed to join in on the excitement. This 100 Fruits Tree had borne fruit, whose greatest use was to assist cultivators in advancing to the 5th severance. Of course, it would only be assistance, and did not mean absolute certainty of success. In fact, there was less than 1% that could succeed, but this was already very astonishing. At the very least, it allowed a sliver of hope. Ling Han was astounded. The foreign realm actually had something like that. It should be known that in the celestial realm, only heavenly Tao Jade had that kind of ability, but it could only be produced with an epoch's time. In comparison, the foreign realm was practically freakish. No wonder there were more monarch tiers and monarch stars in the foreign realm. This was because this heaven and earth was really too good, being practically filled with benefits. Chapter 2276, D. Fei. Chapter 2276, D. Fei. Ling Han's heart throbbed. Lu Yutong and the others were not monarch tiers, and originally would definitely not be able to achieve the fifth severance. But if they obtained the celestial fruits of the 100 Fruits tree, there was a sliver of possibility that they could break through. Though there was only a sliver, it was still worth a try. However, it was still not time for the fruits to ripen yet. Everyone was just waiting, and as the fruit ripened, they could comprehend the profound secrets of the evolution of the heaven and earth from within them, which was similarly extremely beneficial. Thus, minor characters like Long Tu had also followed suit in ascending the mountain, sitting at the sidelines to study it. Comment. Ling Han sat at one side, filled with enthusiasm. He did not have the women come out, because their grasp of foreign realm regulations was still weaker, and it was not certain that they would be able to deceive Six Lotus. Thus, it was better that they continued to stay inside the Black Tower. He asked that young man how the fruits of the 100 Fruits tree could be retrieved. You? That person looked completely disdainful. Just save it. The fact that we are allowed to come is already extremely great luck, so don't have any extravagant hopes. He blabbered on, lecturing Ling Han first. However, he then spoke of the method to retrieve the fruits, and that was to channel their power of regulation to stimulate the fruit. Because there were 108 fruits, every fruit contained unique regulations. If there was resonance, it could then be retrieved. However, the difficulty lay in this resonance. Why could everyone have a sliver of hope of breaking through to the fifth severance just with a fruit? That was because the 108 fruits corresponded to different Tao, and they weren't suitable for everyone. Ling Han stared at the 100 Fruits tree. Under his focused stare, he could only see slivers of celestial chi soaring from the fruits, developing into various shapes and forms, and elaborating on the true meaning of the great Tao. He studied it and discovered this was actually quite useful, allowing him to have a deeper understanding of the foreign realm's regulations. There is really no end to learning, he thought. I thought that I had fused the regulations of the two realms, and my grasp of regulations had already reached an absolutely detailed and precise extent, yet I have new discoveries every time. Looks like one really cannot become proud. As time passed, these fruits became more and more amazing. It was as if they had departed from the original shape of fruits, and had really assumed the shapes of various beasts and humans. They flew and roared as they channeled the various techniques through the ages. Right at this moment, the sound of hoofbeats was heard. Everyone turned to look, and as expected, a luxurious carriage was indeed rapidly approaching. Anyone that could manage to steer their carriage here definitely had a powerful background. Otherwise, their transport would not have been able to sustain this kind of pressure at all. The coachman was an astonishingly tall man, a member of the demon race, and the steed was a divine bull. This was an extremely strange matchup. How could a holy beast possibly be involved with a member of the demon race? Look at that sign. Someone suddenly pointed at an emblem on the carriage. It was a sun, dazzling with endless brilliance. D. Fei! Everyone exclaimed simultaneously, their faces showing reverence. What is he here for? That's right. He is already a 5-leaf monarch tier. The 100 Fruits tree is not of much use to him, and he is still here to join in on the excitement? Hush, D. Fei is incredible. It is rumored that his natural talent is outstanding, and he has hopes of becoming a monarch star in the future. Don't offend him. I have seen him directly slicing a king tier of the demon race into pieces with a light blade, just because the latter took another look at him. It is said that his elder brother, Di Pang, is even stronger. He is already a monarch star. To have 2 monarch tiers from a single clan, that is too extraordinary. The coachman of his carriage is also a king tier of the demon race, who was subdued by Di Fei. Humph, is this meant to provoke our demon race? When I become a monarch tier, I will definitely ask him for a spar. Everyone discussed the newcomer spiritedly. The cultivators of the demon race all showed expressions of wariness and dislike. By nature, They hated the angel race, but Di was too strong. They did not dare express it. As they spoke, the doors to the carriage opened, and a man of lanky build walked out. His wings were white, and the halo above his head was blazingly white, even surpassing his eyes that shone like miniature suns. He was dressed in rich robes, untouched by a speck of dust, yet his feet were bare and were astonishingly fair. Probably 99% of women would have to admit their inferiority. And what was even more astonishing was that his toenails were actually painted a bright red color. What a sissy! Ling Han immediately tagged this label on Di mentally. However, this person's aura was indeed astonishing. A white lotus flower bloomed on his forehead, bearing 6 petals and 5 leaves, which showed that he was a 5th severance. Di eyes swept over and stopped on a woman of the angel race. Instantly, his eyes lit up as he exclaimed, "Fairy Yunhe!" He leaped off his carriage and walked forwards. Fuck off. People were seated in all these circles, and he was not flying over their heads, but rather kicked them directly. Pong, when his words fell, he had sent 3 people who had been blocking his path flying, and the 3 of them spurted blood like mad while they were still in midair. When they landed on the ground, they were already exhaling more than they were inhaling. 5th severance. This was when a monarch tier had the most serious suppression on others in the severing mundane tier. Just like when a dividing soul tier faced a severing mundane tier, it was absolute invincibility. Thus, a mere 2nd severance or 3rd severance would naturally be sent flying with a kick from him. Everyone was furious, especially the masters of those 3 coachmen. They wanted nothing more than to immediately make a move, but when they recalled that they were only at the 4th severance, and it was practically suicide to face a 5th severance, they forcibly suppressed the urge. Di continued onwards. This time, the people that were blocking his way hurriedly stepped aside, fearing that they would be mercilessly sent flying as well. And in this manner, circle after circle of people moved aside, not daring to face his sharpness at all. Di expression was filled with arrogance. The behavior of the crowds was only a matter of course in his eyes. He strode forwards, only one person in his vision, Fairy Yunhe, a beautiful, delicate flower. Lord Di. Some youths of the angel race approached, appearing like stars gathered around the moon as they surrounded Di. When facing those who were similarly from the angel race, Di-Fei's patience was considerably better. He made an exception by nodding at these people. There were a few that still had the aptitude of an emperor tier, and he might be able to take a few of them as his subordinates. He arrived beside Fairy Yunhe and gazed at her adoringly. He said proudly, "Yunhe, I'll help you pluck the celestial fruit." Yet Fairy Yunhe did not give him much regard and merely replied calmly, "No need. I can do it myself." Though Di had been rebuffed, he did not show any signs of impatience and continued, "I naturally know you can, but don't you also want to pluck one for your younger brother?" Fairy Yunhe's aura couldn't help but weaken. She had enough certainty that she could stimulate a celestial fruit, but she had limited energy, after all. She merely cultivated one type of regulations. Thus, she would also only be capable of stimulating a single celestial fruit. Wanting to pluck a second fruit was practically impossible. Yet she doted extremely on her younger brother and wanted to get a great future for her younger brother as well. Thus, she appeared hesitant now, her rejection no longer so firm. "Since Lord Di is showing such great kindness, it would be better for you to agree, Fairy Yunhe." "That's right. Lord Di has purposely made this trip. His true nature and true love is absolutely sincere and genuine." Those around them began to persuade her. Though some people were saying this, they showed signs of envy. That was because Fairy Yunhe was truly captivatingly beautiful. Chapter 2277, Depressed. Chapter 2277, Depressed. The appearance of the angel race was very close when compared to the people of the celestial realm. The only difference was that they had a pair of wings and a halo above their heads, and their eyes were also extremely bright. However, every single one of them was very fair, the men handsome and the women beautiful. Fairy Yunhe was one of the more well-known ones at that. Whether it was judging via the aesthetics of the angel race or a member of the celestial realm, she was a rarely seen beauty. More importantly, this beauty also possessed astonishing natural talent for cultivation, which naturally caused men to scramble madly over her. Then I will have to thank Brother D. Fairy Yunha nodded. She could not refuse this favor, but she had immediately made her decision internally. She would repay him with valuable gifts and immediately return this kindness. Difei's expression was arrogant. He had already been in the fifth severance for a great many years. Not only had he pushed his main focus, the regulations of light, to an extent of perfection, he had also cultivated another 3 types of regulations, and they had all reached a considerable height as well. In the past, he had already stimulated a fruit using the regulations of light, and the same person using the same regulations would not be able to do it again after using it once. Thus, he would need to use the other 3 regulations, but this naturally would be enough. Even if there were others that had also cultivated the corresponding 3 types of regulations, who would be able to compare to him? He was a 5th severance monarch tier. He talked eloquently, talking about his experiences in recent years and the various types of ancient sites he had visited, which were filled with danger but also innumerable gains, and all who listened were captivated. Even Fairy Yunha couldn't help but look at him with her beautiful eyes, showing a rapt expression. Firstly, he was eloquent, enchanting any listener, and secondly, he had indeed experienced a considerable number of events that would make others gasp and become fascinated. He became the center of attention, and quite a number of women looked besotted. Difei only had to crook his finer, and they would probably immediately jump onto his carriage and roam far and wide with him. These women were from the angel race, and that was one thing, but more importantly, there were a few females of the demon race that were also looking captivated, their eyes bright and intelligent, wanting nothing more than to jump into his arms and causing the men of both races to go mad with jealousy. But what could they do? Difei was a monarch tier, a man that was destined to be capable of becoming an ancestral king, and could even reach the height of 13th or 14th lotus. The admiration of the strong would surpass any differences in race. The fruits are ripe. It was unclear who had called out, but everyone's eyes were immediately focused on the 100 fruits tree, as if Difei had instantly lost all his attraction. If compared, what would be more important than their own strength? Difei couldn't help but feel displeasure, but thinking further about it, why did he have to be annoyed with a tree? He shook his head and rose up, intending to immediately stimulate a resonation from the celestial fruit. After all, there were still a great many emperor tiers here, and they were also qualified to stimulate the celestial fruits. If he was too late, the fruit would definitely be snatched. He had only grasped 3 additional regulations. Difei channeled the regulation, beginning to stimulate a celestial fruit. In just a short while, he had locked down a celestial fruit. That was a fire element fruit, and was reacting slightly under his power of regulation. Immediately, he tried his best, pouring the entirety of his spirit over. Wong, wong, wong. This fruit trembled slightly. It was shaped like a blazing flame, appearing both beautiful and dangerous. It would allow cultivators who cultivated the regulations of fire to have a sliver of hope of breaking through to the 5th severance, and was incredibly valuable. Come on, Difei said mentally. He actually only needed a single fruit to win the favor of Fairy Yunha. This was a celestial fruit, and even if an 18th Lotus King had planted a restriction here, allowing only severing mundane tiers to come to pluck these fruits, it was still not something that could be done in the blink of an eye. He continuously channeled the regulation, causing the resonance between the two to become stronger and stronger. He couldn't help but look complacent. When he had been in the 4th severance, he had spent 3 days and nights to finally manage to stimulate a celestial fruit, but now he only needed around 2 hours to be able to do the same thing. This speed had increased by who knew how many times over. When 2 hours had passed, that fire element celestial fruit trembled violently, as if it was about to fly off its branch and lunge towards him. Difei smiled slightly. He was close to succeeding. Pooh, the celestial fruit trembled lightly, and suddenly left the branch, shooting outwards. Yet Di Fei's expression changed suddenly because this celestial fruit was actually not flying towards him, but rather in a different direction. Impossible. He was inexplicably stunned because it was in the last instant that he had also uncovered that another surge of willpower was invading and had easily stimulated the celestial fruit, causing the celestial fruit to escape his grasp. This feeling was really very terrible. It was like he had courted a woman for a very long time, and just when it looked like they could finally have X, another man suddenly charged out and stole the woman instead. Di Fei's eyes followed the course of flight of the celestial fruits, and when his eyes spotted a person, he almost spluttered. That was because that person's hands actually held a pile of celestial fruits. A pile. Was this a fuck monster? Even an emperor tier could only stimulate a single celestial fruit, and this was actually a fuck pile. There were at least a few dozen fruits. How did you do that? It was not just him. There were a great many others that were looking at Ling Han like they were looking at a monster. However, the latter had been too focused on stimulating the celestial fruit, and so had not noticed how the others looked like. It was just 2 hours, and this guy had actually stimulated dozens of celestial fruits. What kind of terrifying speed was this? No wonder the other party only had to divert his attention slightly and managed to snatch the celestial fruit that Di Fei had been communicating with for a very long time. Di Fei gritted his teeth and suppressed the urge to make a move. Instead, he continued to communicate with a second celestial fruit. As he saw it, Ling Han had plucked so many celestial fruits, so he should have exhausted all the regulations that he had grasped. He attempted to stimulate the resonance, and a celestial fruit responded very soon, soothing his unease. He had really feared that the fruits that corresponded to the 3 types of regulations he had grasped would already have been taken by others. However, the tragedy repeated. A forceful divine sense swept over, and the fruit that he had been communicating with instantly departed from its branch. Di Fei did not even have to turn his head. Just looking at the course of flight of this fruit, he could be sure that it had surely been that person. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! What fruit can't you pick? Why must you contend with me? Moreover, you have already plucked so many, so why are you still so greedy? He immediately wanted to make a move, but recalling that he still had another regulation that he had not channeled, he suppressed his fury. Instead, he channeled his last regulation, and then he immediately discovered that there was no fruit that resonated with him. The 100 fruits tree had 108 fruits that corresponded to 108 different regulations of the Great Tao, but in truth, the total was not such a great number. Furthermore, many of them were split out from a main branch of Great Tao, such as the regulations of fire that had split out into 9 Tao and totaled 9 fruits. The regulations everyone cultivated would ultimately have an affinity with one fruit, and whether one could stimulate it or otherwise would have to depend on the extent of affinity and on the depth of their grasp of the regulations. This time, Di Fei had not stimulated any fruit, which meant one thing, and that was the fruits that corresponded to his regulations had already been completely harvested. Only one person could have done it so quickly. Ling Han, you've gone too far. Di Fei suddenly stood and shouted loudly at Ling Han, hand over all the fruits and scram off the mountain. That's right, hand them over. The others called out as well. If Ling Han alone got close to 60 fruits, then what would be left for them? Chapter 2278. I have considered. Chapter 2278. I have considered. Ling Han's eyes swept over them, but he merely smiled faintly. Why should I? Star. The women indeed could not use as many as over 60 celestial fruits, but this object could grant others a sliver of hope of breaking through to the 5th severance. If left in the foreign realm, wouldn't that cause trouble for the celestial realm? Hence, even if he discarded them, he would not leave them for the foreign realm. Moreover, eating one would only give a sliver of hope, so wouldn't eating a few more mean an even higher chance? To say nothing of over 60 fruits, even if all 108 fruits were given to him, Ling Han would not complain. If you don't, you die, Di Fei declared harshly, the white lotus flower on his forehead glowing. appearing both sacred and dazzling. The angel race and demon race were not on good terms in the first place. If there had been a shared target, they would have long since battled to death, but if it was contending over profit, they would still be battering each other. Die, the others called out as well. It was not just the angel race, but also the demon race that was calling out. When on the issue of profit, whatever race or justice was all superficial. Ling Han chuckled and retorted, "There are a great many people who want to kill me. As for you guys, hee, you are too far off." These words were really not any kind of exaggeration. The heavenly venerates of both realms were hunting Ling Han, but wasn't he still alive and kicking very well? Furthermore, he would become stronger and stronger, and then would become a heavenly venerate in the future, or even surpass the heavenly venerable tier, and beat down on the sealed emotion heavenly venerable and the others. Difei naturally would not believe it. The fact that Ling Han managed to come here meant that the other was only a severing mundane tier. Then there was absolutely no way Difei himself, a fifth severance monarch tier, would not be the other party's match. To say the least, even if the other man was also a fifth severance monarch tier, Difei was certain that he himself would still be slightly superior. "You are courting death." Difei moved aggressively, and an incredibly bright, extremely dazzling light surged out, turning into a sword that sliced out at Ling Han. Though Ling Han had already had some exchanges with the cultivators of the foreign realm, he had only touched the regulation of darkness. Thus, seeing this monarch tier of the angel race, he couldn't help but feel some interest. He wanted to see just how amazing this regulation of light was. Hence, he did not use any kind of power, and carelessly moved to play around with Difei. At present, Ling Han was really too strong. Though the overall level of the celestial realm was inferior to the foreign realms, it still had its value. Its regulations still contained what the regulations of the foreign realm did not. To complete both was the wisest option. If Ling Han returned to the immortal palace tier, he would no longer be a monarch star, but rather an existence that had surpassed a monarch star, and could be called something like monarch moon, monarch sun, or something like that. Anyways, he would be all-powerful, so he would be beyond awesome. Difei burst out with celestial might, channeling the regulations of light. It was as if he had become a war god of light, completely beating down on Ling Han. His expression was filled with arrogance. As expected, he was the strongest monarch tier. There was absolutely no way that Ling Han could be his match. However, for some unknown reason, the latter was incredibly strange, and had actually grasped innumerable regulations, plucking as many as over 60 celestial fruits. Yet as time passed, Difei was slightly anxious because no matter how big his advantage was, he could not suppress Ling Han and obtain victory at all. Why is this guy so tough? Difei thought, but surmised that Ling Han should also be a monarch tier, so it was logical that he had not immediately defeated him. Others were also stunned. They had not imagined that Ling Han was so strong, and was actually also a monarch tier as well. Furthermore, the young man that had guided Ling Han previously was also gaping with shock, and to think he had actually told Ling Han not to have any extravagant hopes. He had not thought that the latter would be this powerful. Great blade of light, killing all evils. Difei roared loudly, suddenly brandishing a precious blade. It was blazing white, as if it was formed from pure light, and was extremely amazing. Brandishing the sword, he slashed out at Ling Han. Shio, light burst, causing people to become blind even when they had their eyes open. A strange feeling rose up in Ling Han. It was like innumerable beautiful celestial maidens were waving him over, as if he would willingly surrender to death, and from then onwards, he could soar into a plane of nirvana, where there would be no more worries. There would be no more battles, and only pleasure. Immediately, his eyes snapped open, bursting with an astonishing chill. This regulation of light had the effect of enchantment. Pa! The light of the blade descended, yet Ling Han grabbed it with a single stroke. With a slight tremor, he had immediately snatched the sword of light. He discovered that this material was extremely unique. It actually had no solid form, but rather was fused from pure regulations. A unique method of tool refinement, Ling Han thought. He raised his head and saw those around him were all gaping, their mouths so wide that they could fit an egg. The others were naturally astounded. Fuck, is there anyone like you? Just now, you looked like you were outmatched, but with just a careless grab, you even plucked the weapon of your opponent. Can't you see that Di Fei is looking absolutely stunned now? Ling Han chuckled and said, sorry for scaring everyone. Those who said you wanted to kill me, take one step forward. It's time for accounting. Schwa, at least 90% of them all simultaneously took a step back, and a few people whose reaction was slightly slower immediately stood out. No, not me. One of them saw this and rapidly shook his head, defending himself as he pointed at himself. The others were much smarter and hurriedly stepped back. Di Fei suppressed his fury and said, sell one of your fruits to me. Name your price. He had agreed to produce a celestial fruit for Fairy Yunhe, yet now it was definite that he was unable to pluck it himself, so he could only choose to buy it from Ling Han. Others would definitely be unwilling to sell as they only had one. Ling Han was shocked and asked, weren't you planning to kill me? Di Fei avoided the question. If he could kill Ling Han, he naturally would not be wasting words, but who asked that he could not? He humphed and repeated, name your price. Ling Han shook his head and said, I have a better idea. Why don't I kill you? Wouldn't everything you possess all belong to me then? Haha. Di Fei laughed arrogantly. Who was he? A monarch tier, and his elder brother was a monarch star, someone destined to become an 18th Lotus Supreme Elite. Who would dare to kill him? Woo. His laughter silenced abruptly because his neck was already gripped by Ling Han, and he was lifted off his feet. He had supreme great power, but in Ling Han's grasp, he was like a harmless chick, losing all power. He couldn't help but feel astonished. Just how wide exactly was the difference between himself and Ling Han for the former to actually be unable to sustain a single blow like this? Seeing the menacing killing intent that Ling Han exuded, Fairy Yunhe spoke up. Sir, please have mercy. Di Fei's brother is a monarch star, and now his cultivation level is the 9th level of 8th Lotus, possessing invincible might. Ling Han broke into a smile and demanded, so I should just suffer in silence and allow this brat to trample all over me? Why must you act on impulse? Fairy Yunhe persuaded. It was not that she held any kind of affection for Di Fei, but rather that she was very wary of Di Peng. He was a true prodigy, and it was said that even a great many ancestral kings had extended an olive branch to him, wanting to take him as a disciple. Then I'll consider, Ling Han said thus, and in the blink of an eye, he spoke again. All right, I have considered. You call that considering? Fairy Yunhe couldn't help but feel torn between laughter and tears, feeling that though this person was of the demon race, he did not have a sliver of the malice of the demon race, but was closer to being a shameless ruffian. Then what is the outcome of your consideration? She asked patiently. Kill him, of course. Ling Han smiled slightly, showing a mouthful of snow-white teeth. With a twist of his right hand, Di Fei's neck was broken, and all life was immediately wiped from him. Now, the world is finally silent. He efficiently found the spatial god tool on Di Fei, then casually tossed him aside, turning to look at the masses. What do you guys think? Chapter 2279. Proposal. Chapter 2279. Proposal. It really was silent because not only had Di Fei died, no longer able to make the slightest sound, even the others were all dumbfounded and could not say a single word. A monarch tier, Di Peng's younger brother at that, had actually died just like that. This was the monarch tier that they strained, struggled, and were so determined to become? So what if they did? If it was still the fate of being insta-killed with a single strike that awaited them, then what meaning would there be to diligently and tirelessly aspire for it? Ling Han chuckled and said, Please continue. I'll take my leave. He had already used all the evolutions of regulations he had, and obtaining over 60 celestial fruits was his limit. Furthermore, he had always been a more low-key character and had not planned to rob the others. After all, he was still in the foreign realm. though there was already a monarch tier that had died by his hand, who asked the former to have offended him. Wait. Celestial Maiden Yunha hurriedly called out, bearing a dazzling smile. It was as if she had completely forgotten about the matter of Di Fei. Could you sell me a celestial fruit? No. Ling Han answered very decisively. Celestial Maiden Yunha was slightly suffocated. Not only did she have astonishing natural talent in cultivation, she was also an outstanding beauty herself. With Ling Han refusing her so decisively and resolutely, she felt irritated and gained an urge to bite Ling Han. Forcing out a smile, she said, "Sir, I can give you a referral to enroll into the 100 Battles Academy. With your natural talent, you would definitely be able to stand out in a short period of time and become a dazzling star that has newly risen. How about it?" Though the 100 Battles Academy was established only by a 10th Lotus ancestral king, it is linked in countless ways to various ancestral kings behind the scenes. It is not impossible to become the disciple of a 17th Lotus, or even an 18th Lotus ancestral king in future. Ling Han's first reaction was to refuse, of course. His grasp of the regulations of the foreign realm was still extremely weak, and his disguise could only be effective on severing mundane tiers. If a celestial king really set eyes on him, he would definitely be exposed. However, on second thought, celestial king tier forces would definitely have stronger time cultivation chambers. Furthermore, a heavenly venerate was presently looking for him, and he could just boldly hide in an academy, and who knew, the effects of his disguise could be even better. Of course, before this, he definitely had to successfully modify the heaven-deceiving technique so that it could also be effective in the foreign realm. For him, this was not very difficult to do, because he had the Origin Magic Cube, which allowed him to very easily assimilate the regulations of the two realms. Of course, this needed time. Moreover, he was indeed very intrigued by the cultivation system of the foreign realm. The deeper and more detailed his understanding of the enemy, the better, and naturally the higher the chances of defeating them. All right. Ling Han nodded. He casually took out a celestial fruit and was just about to toss it over. Please give me a lightning element celestial fruit. Celestial Maiden Yunha was overjoyed and hurriedly added more details to her request. If the elemental alignment was incorrect, it would not be of much use even if her brother consumed it. Ling Han picked through his harvest and threw another one over, asking, "When do we set out?" "They've to first retrieve a celestial fruit. Thus, please wait a few days for me, sir," Celestial Maiden Yunha said smilingly. "There is fine wine and rare fruits in my carriage. Please go in, sit anywhere and take a rest, sir." "All right," Ling Han agreed hesitantly. Yet everyone almost exploded in fury. This was an invitation from Celestial Maiden Yunha, allowing him to enter into her personal domain. What man would not be overwhelmed with joy? Yet Ling Han actually had such a sour face. How could this not be infuriating? Ling Han climbed aboard the carriage. As expected, the inside was very spacious. There were chairs and a soft couch, while various rare and strange fruits were laid out on the tea table. Without reservations, he lay down on the soft couch as he plucked a grape, which he tossed into his mouth. Not bad. The fruit was extremely sweet, juicy, and thirst-quenching. There was also a sliver of regulations that circulated inside his body, which was extremely beneficial for cultivation. This wait took another 3 days and nights, and only then did he see Celestial Maiden Yunha aboard the carriage. At first, she was smiling gently, but when she saw how Ling Han was presently lying on her personal couch, her pretty face immediately darkened. This damn man was really utterly shameless to actually dare to dirty her couch. Who had given him that courage? Scram! She couldn't help but exclaim angrily. She was a bit of a clean freak. Ling Han did not move and retorted, "Didn't you say I could sit anywhere? Then you should have some minimal self-awareness, at least. Could you just simply sit or lie on the personal couch of a lady? Don't you think this is rather ungentlemanly?" Celestial Maiden Yunha asked, trying her best to calm down and speaking reason with Ling Han. Ling Han laughed and said, "With such a genial invitation from the Celestial Maiden, if I acted reserved with you, Wouldn't that be a rebuff to you? As he spoke, he grabbed an apple and bit crisply into it. Celestial Maiden Yunha gritted her teeth in fury. This guy was really a ruffian, and was extremely thick-skinned as well. This kind of person was the hardest to deal with. She ignored Ling Han and sat on the chair at the side, calling out loudly, "Set out!" Long Tu, who was outside, shivered and hurriedly obeyed. With him raising the whip to urge the horse, the steed immediately galloped onwards. Ling Han spoke no further. He had not spent the last 3 days idly. Instead, he was refining the heaven-deceiving technique, but he still needed a little more time to succeed. He did not speak any more nonsense with Celestial Maiden Yunha, but rather focused completely on studying the heaven-deceiving technique. The carriage was slightly swaying, but it caused no effect at all. Ling Han just simply sat quietly by himself, just like an old monk. Celestial Maiden Yunha looked at him, feeling more and more discomfort in her heart. She naturally had no shortage of quarters. In fact, there were so many that she was no longer concerned, but when she saw how a man ignored her completely, an intense fury rose up in her heart. This man, why didn't he just die? In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed, and the carriage finally stopped swaying, arriving at an old town. This was not the location of Celestial Maiden Yunha's clan, but rather a neutral zone, where there was neither any regulation of darkness nor any regulations of light, so no harm would be caused to Ling Han. She had Ling Han stay here for the moment, while she would continue her journey onwards to her clan. When she handed a celestial fruit to her younger brother, and she herself had broken through to the 5th severance, she would come back and find Ling Han, and they would head towards the 100 Battles Academy together. Ling Han had no disagreement. He found a place and settled down there while continuing to use the local time cultivation chamber to complete the heaven-deceiving technique as quickly as possible. He asked Small Tower, "I still have a large amount of star stones from the celestial realm with me. Can you recharge using them?" Small Tower shook its head. "No. The power I need has already surpassed the range of 9th heaven. However, this can be used on the reincarnation tree." The level of heavenly venerable tier was too high, surpassing regulations itself. Thus, the star stones could not be of any help to Small Tower, but the reincarnation tree was still in the category of normal, and the star stones could still be effective on it. Why hadn't you said so earlier? Ling Han almost jumped in fury. What was needed the most to modify the heaven-deceiving technique was time for comprehension, and it was precisely what the reincarnation tree could help him with. Furthermore, the women also needed the reincarnation tree for cultivation. "You haven't asked either," Small Tower said, but followed up with an explanation. "My power is limited. It is best for me to constantly stay dormant." As expected of a proud demon tower that liked to speak tough, it was clearly something that could have been resolved if it had taken the initiative to just explain, yet it still wanted to irritate Ling Han. Ling Han, on the other hand, very much wanted to see the karmic life heavenly venerable. Just what kind of person was he that he could actually create such a precious tool like Small Tower? And there was also the law. It must have had some very profound relations with the karmic life heavenly venerable. Based on these two aspects, the karmic life heavenly venerable probably was not a serious person either. TL first boost the grade of the Divine Demon Sword. Chapter 2280. The Divine Demon Sword is upgraded. Chapter 2280. The Divine Demon Sword is upgraded. When Ling Han had been in the Celestial Realm, he had killed over 100 foreign realm celestial kings through trickery in one fell swoop, obtaining astonishingly great military merits, and he had also redeemed uncountable godly metal from the heavens, which would be sufficient to push the devouring metal to the level of divine metal. Previously, when he had fled into the foreign realm, he had not managed to pay attention to the Divine Demon Sword. Furthermore, it had not been very urgent either, and now that he had found some time, he finally recalled that it was time to upgrade this divine sword to the grade that it should have. Because there was really too much godly metal piled together, it was even larger than a planet. Thus, Ling Han was boosting the Divine Demon Sword inside the Black Tower. Otherwise, if he had taken out so much godly metal, he really would have had to abandon this neutral zone as well. Even if the devouring ability of the divine demon sword was astonishing, it was still after 10 days' time that it finally advanced to 9 stars. Then, another 20 days later, it was at the level of pseudo-divine metal. After reaching this stage, the divine demon sword was already close to satiation. Only another step further, and it could become divine demon sword. However, Ling Han fed this sword another 3 days, but this guy was not willing to consume any further. There was clearly still a considerable amount of godly metal left. Ling Han paused for a moment, and suddenly it came to him. Could it be that the divine demon sword could only completely break through in a true heaven and earth? He exited the Black Tower, and the divine demon sword instantly shone with majestic light. Multiple seals flickered on the blade, possessing an indescribable might. Boom! Dark clouds immediately rolled out in the skies as lightning flashed closely together. The heavenly tribulation was coming, but its target this time was not Ling Han, but rather the sword in his hands. Ling Han laughed loudly, his figure flying into the air and leaving this town behind, and arrived at the isolated outskirts. Quang, the first bolt of lightning had already descended, incredibly accurately striking onto the divine demon sword. Ling Han raised the sword to greet the lightning bolt. With a swipe of the sword, this bolt of lightning was instantly slashed into half. However, Ling Han was also completely numb from electrocution, even if he had just been scraped a bit. The divine demon sword was going to be promoted to become a celestial tool, so the divine punishment it endured was also at the celestial king tier. This was a power that Ling Han was far from being capable of matching. Gods! Ling Han thought. This heavenly tribulation was too frightening. Merely a single wave of the aftermath, and he was in such a great pain. The upcoming might of the heavenly tribulation would be further increased gradually. How was he supposed to hold up to it? Right at this moment, the divine demon sword trembled slightly, suddenly leaving Ling Han's hands. Shoo! It shot straight into the air. It had actually taken the initiative to face the heavenly tribulation head-on. Ling Han thought for a while. Unless he used the Black Tower, there was no way he could interfere. If that was the case, then forget it. This was a threshold that the divine demon sword had to breach. If it could not succeed, it would not be qualified to become divine metal. Boom, boom, boom. The heavenly tribulation threw down bolt after bolt of lightning, and crack after crack also appeared on the divine demon sword, as if it was no longer able to endure. You can do it, Ling Han thought. The divine demon sword had been by his side for so many years, and his martial intent was contained within. Though it was presently still very weak, it had inherited Ling Han's conviction: never give up and never talk of retreat. The battle prowess of the divine demon sword itself was completely insufficient to match the heavenly tribulation. It was being tempered by the lightning. It was all up to it whether it would be shattered to bits or complete the leap in quality and become divine metal. The heavenly tribulation of the foreign realm was even fiercer. Though Ling Han had confidence in the divine demon sword, it was inevitable that he still felt a sliver of worry. Shoo! A figure shot over and arrived. It was a handsome young man, a member of the angel race. His snow-white wings were incredibly pure and holy, and he bore long locks of dazzling gold, looking handsome to the point of arousing the jealousy of others. What good luck! An ultimate precious divine sword is actually enduring a heavenly tribulation now. Is this a gift that the heavens has bestowed on me, Richina? This young man laughed loudly. He had deliberately come to investigate when he had seen the terrifying lightning spread out into an ocean over here. At first, he had thought that it was a 9th Lotus Elite about to become an ancestral king. He had not thought that it was actually a sword. This is an ancestral weapon. He was incredibly excited. An ancestral weapon was the equivalent of the celestial tool of the celestial tool, and though the overall level of the foreign realm was just that bit higher than the celestial king tier, there was still an incredibly small number of ancestral weapons. And now, an ancestral weapon had actually appeared in front of him, with no owner at that. Naturally, He thought that this was a gift that the heavens had bestowed upon him. As for Ling Han, he was a mere sixth lotus, so the man naturally overlooked him completely. Huh. His eyes set on Ling Han, and he felt that there seemed to be something hidden within Ling Han that made him feel a discomfort he could not describe. Commit suicide, Richina stated calmly. He disliked the feeling that he got from Ling Han, but couldn't be bothered to investigate the matter. It would be fine once he was dead. Ling Han looked at him. This was a seventh lotus 3 leaves powerhouse, which was the equivalent of the earth soul of the dividing soul tier. No wonder he dared to cast such disdain on him, and he was also grim. As expected, if it was just a simple disguise, it would be hard for Ling Han to deceive even an earth soul. That disgusted expression on the other's face was the exact same expression he wore when he saw the people who cultivated the techniques of the foreign realm in the celestial realm. This kind of despise came from the heaven and earth. It was just dislike, and there was no reason for it. Commit suicide? The difficulty is quite high. I really don't know how, Ling Han said smilingly. Why don't you demonstrate first? Richina was stunned. He had initially thought that Ling Han would immediately wail and beg for mercy. He had not thought that the latter would actually talk back to him. His courage was really quite great. If it were not for the fact that you are too unlikable, I could take you as my subordinate. It is most interesting to make a defiant person submit, he said calmly. Unfortunately, I am not in the mood for that at all right now. He suddenly moved, launching an attack at Ling Han. This was a battle that had absolutely no reason for it, but since the other party was charging straight at him, Ling Han naturally would not just wait for death to arrive either. He dodged this strike immediately with a flash. He did not know who this young man was, and did not want to cause unnecessary trouble. After all, he wanted to keep a low profile. In these several thousand years, Ling Han had already completely grasped the regulations of the foreign realm. At least it was the case for severing mundane tier regulations. He manifested millions of himself. This was a weaker version of void space, but could also be considered a stronger version. It was weaker because his present cultivation level was too low, so it was definitely inferior compared to when he used it as a second secret immortal palace tier, but it could be called stronger because it had assimilated the regulations of 2 realms, so that void space, at the level of severing mundane tier, had become stronger. How intriguing. You actually managed to dodge my strike, but that would only happen once. Richina declared with a laugh, yet was completely unconcerned. In the first place, there was a massive gulf between the severing mundane tier and dividing soul tier. What more when he was a 7th lotus 3 leaves? He moved once more, his fingers turning into endless blades that shot rapidly towards Ling Han. Ling Han could definitely not be considered good-tempered. Just now, he had just reminded himself that he had to keep a low profile, but seeing how overbearing Richina was being, his fury instantly went straight to his head. How could he hold back any further? Clenching a fist, he countered Richina with a blow of his own. You are overestimating yourself, Richina sneered. As he saw it, this action from Ling Han was naturally like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, a useless act of resistance in the face of absolute despair. Pong! With this strike, Richina was immediately sent stumbling back continuously, and that was the same for Ling Han as well. Richina's expression instantly changed. His opponent had actually managed to battle him to a tie. It should be known that he was a 7th lotus 3 leaves, and a king tier at that. Even if the other party was a 6th lotus 5 leaves monarch tier, his battle prowess would only be at the 7th lotus 2 leaves at most. How could he possibly match him? Moreover, there was a strange aura seeping from his body, causing him to involuntarily feel dislike and an even stronger impulse to commit murder. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.